Chapter 1. The time-traveling nosebleed Lily Evans woke up in a dazed state, her head pounding as though something heavy was pressing down on it. The pain was so intense that even the slightest movement made her groan. "Oh my God, this hangover is the worst. I swear I won't drink that much again. Wait, why is the ground so hard beneath me? Did I get drunk and pass out on the floor without realizing it? No, this blanket. Where am I?" Struggling to endure the headache, Lily blinked her eyes repeatedly but couldn't adjust to the glaring light around her. She recalled going out for drinks with a group of her junior employees. Her small company had finally secured a project, and though it was just barely worth $1 million, it was a huge milestone for her, a recent graduate and budding entrepreneur. That night, after landing the deal, she had taken her team out to celebrate, only to end up getting drunk. She distinctly remembered being helped home by her good colleague Chloe Miller. The throbbing in her head forced her to rub her temples as she mumbled to herself. She turned over, noticing the absence of the soft, springy mattress she was used to. Thinking about the consequences of her drunken escapade, she couldn't help but chuckle at herself in mild self-mockery. Though she didn't feel cold, the thought of it being autumn and possibly having slept on the ground all night made her shiver. Her petite frame surely wouldn't have handled it well. Finally, she managed to adjust to the brightness around her and realized she was covered with a blanket and lying on an elevated surface. The old, heavy, and tattered blanket startled her awake, and she immediately sat up. But as soon as she did, a sharp pain shot through her head. Then, flashes of unfamiliar memories flooded her mind. In the recollections of this body she now inhabited, the girl was 18 years old and also named Lily Evans. This was an unfamiliar era, but judging by the clothing of the people around her, it was undoubtedly ancient. The girl was a poor village girl, with no father, and a frail mother who had raised her alone. In her childhood, a young boy named Peter Parker lived in the same village. He had delicate features and could be considered handsome. His life was even harder than hers, fatherless, and with a blind mother, he survived on the charity of his uncles. Despite his circumstances, Peter had always been passionate about studying. Knowing this, Lily's mother had kindly extended help to him. As Peter grew older and became capable of supporting himself and his mother, his uncles stopped aiding them, leaving them with just 2 thatched huts and a broken courtyard. Peter would hunt in the mountains behind the village during the day and study by the dim light of an oil lamp at night. Seeing his dedication, Lily's mother naturally continued to support him. A few years ago, during the county exams, her mother had sold the jewelry she had cherished for years, reportedly left behind by Lily's father, to cover Peter's travel expenses. Peter, determined and ambitious, passed the scholar-level exam and continued to pursue higher achievements. Later, he passed the provincial exams and set his sights on taking the imperial examinations in the capital. Lily and her mother had given him their savings, earned from sewing and even washing clothes for others. They had gone so far as to sell the only jade pendant left by Lily's father to fund Peter's journey. The sacrifices made by Lily and her mother deeply moved Peter, who had wept with gratitude at the time. He promised them that once he achieved success, he would return to marry Lily and treat her mother as his own. Actually, Lily Evans had admired this young man since she was little, but she chose not to express her feelings, fearing it might hinder his future. Now, hearing him speak like this, she blushed and shyly nodded in agreement. The two mothers and their children supported each other, selling off valuable possessions in the house, buying a small donkey, and together with Peter Parker's mother, they escorted him out of the village to take the imperial exams. For 3 years, they waited anxiously. Lily Evans and her mother, along with Peter Parker's mother, longed day and night for news. Then they heard that he had fallen ill midway and couldn't take the exam, forcing him to live alone in the capital city while earning money to try again. Although they inquired about his situation, thinking about Peter Parker's determination, Lily Evans bore no resentment. Instead, her feelings for him grew even deeper. During these years, her mother's health gradually declined, and Peter Parker's mother also aged and became frail, requiring care. The burden of the household fell entirely on Lily's shoulders. Despite her delicate appearance and being considered the most beautiful girl in the village, she rejected numerous marriage proposals because she had already promised herself to someone else. 3 years passed, and the once sought-after 15-year-old girl had become an older maiden in the eyes of others. Yet she felt no regret and continued to wait for Peter Parker to return and marry her. However, after 3 years of waiting, she received the devastating news that he had returned to town, taken a government job, and married the daughter of a county magistrate. He came back only to take his mother away. Despite the care and support Lily and her mother had given him, he merely sent someone to deliver 50 taels of silver as compensation, completely disregarding their past. That day, when Peter Parker's messenger brought the 50 taels of silver to Lily's mother, Lily had just returned from doing laundry. Hearing her mother tell her to let go, as he was now an important figure, and even rumored to be an official appointed by the emperor, Lily could only remain silent. Her mother reasoned that an official marrying into another official's family was only natural. With the 50 taels of silver, at least their lives could temporarily improve. Seeing her mother's heartbroken and helpless expression, thinking about all the sacrifices they had made for him, and the time she had spent waiting for him, Lily Evans felt overwhelmed. Hearing the gossip from some villagers, she could no longer bear it. She cried for half a day, refused to eat or drink for an entire day, and then, when her mother went out to the fields to pick vegetables, Lily impulsively ran into a wall. Unexpectedly, Lily Evans found herself transmigrated into the body of an unfortunate yet strong-willed woman. These strange memories made Lily feel terrified and confused. She looked at her hands, small but calloused, and then at her coarse, patched clothing and the traditional hairstyle of a rural woman. The betrayals and oppression this woman had endured made Lily yearn to return to her modern life. Staring up at the straw roof, she felt despair. The room's simplicity resembled a primitive existence. Apart from 2 beds, there was only a table, and outside hung a tattered curtain, so faded from washing that its original color was indiscernible. Thinking about her current living conditions, Lily felt an overwhelming urge to end it all once more, hoping that might bring her back. My God, my hands, these clothes, this hair. Have I really transmigrated into the body of this unlucky woman? Oh heavens, are you playing a joke on me? I had just started my career and now this? Are you toying with me? I need to go back, she murmured uncontrollably. After speaking, she tried to get out of bed, instinctively heading toward the wall, which, though cleaned, was still riddled with cracks. But as soon as she stood up, her weak legs gave out, and she stumbled to one side. Lily, why are you up? Don't scare me like this, my child, her mother said, rushing to her side. A heartless person like him isn't worth it. It's our fault for being blind. Peter Parker's family never helped us. It was just the 2 of us foolishly holding on. Who else can we blame? Promise me, don't do anything foolish again. No matter what people say about you, you will always be my precious daughter, my Lily. When Lily thought she would tragically fall to the ground, a figure swiftly stepped in. The person, without a second thought for the basket full of fresh greens in their hands, immediately caught her. Seeing her stumble, they helped her sit on the wooden chair nearby, their heart aching as they set the basket down. Tears streamed down as they embraced her tightly, their voice choked with emotion. Mom! Mom! Please don't cry, The person who appeared made Lily instinctively look over. It was a middle-aged woman. Though her eyes held a certain brightness, The traces of time on her face couldn't be concealed. She looked slightly aged, but her brows carried a kind and gentle expression. This woman appeared to be in her 40s, yet strands of gray hair were visible, and her face bore the clear signs of a life worn down by hardship. Lily couldn't help but feel a pang of sorrow. This woman was the mother of this body she now inhabited. Whether it was the bitterness lingering in the body's heart or an overwhelming sense of sympathy, Lily felt her chest tighten. Tears welled up as she looked at the woman holding her, unable to speak through her sobs. "Lily, I know you're enduring so much pain in your heart. Living in the countryside, people always have all kinds of things to say. But it breaks my heart, my dear daughter. What is so wrong with us? Without us, what is Peter Parker even worth? Yet Peter Parker turned out to be so heartless and ungrateful. After 10 years of care and support from our family, all he left was 50 taels of silver. Anyone would feel indignant and find it unacceptable. But Lily, we must keep living. Promise me you won't have any more dark thoughts." Lily choked back her tears. She still hadn't fully come to terms with everything. Thinking about what her beloved daughter had endured, her heart ached, and she held her tightly, speaking repeatedly through her own tears. "Mom, don't be like this. Don't cry, don't cry. Lily promises you, I will never think of ending my life again, never. Does he think he can crush Lily Evans so easily? Dream on. I won't just survive, I'll live better. I'll live to make him envious, to make him regret how he treated us. Mom, have you finished sorting the greens? Is it time to cook the noodles yet? I'm so hungry." Lily felt heartbroken and cried, thinking about everything this body had endured. Deep down, she didn't know how to feel, instinctively patting her elderly mother's shoulder gently as the woman continuously comforted her, holding her tightly with evident worry. She sighed helplessly, looking at her mother, who was embracing her without letting go. Then her gaze shifted to the basket of vegetables on the table nearby, and she suddenly noticed her stomach growling. A large bump had formed on her forehead, and after crying earlier, she realized she hadn't eaten almost the entire day. Now that she was here, she truly felt a bit hungry. Glancing outside, it was already noon, and Lily couldn't ignore the pangs of hunger in her stomach. Feeling slightly embarrassed, she looked at her elderly mother and began to act playfully to ease the moment. Chapter 2. The oath. The old woman nodded, releasing her grip on Lily Evans and watching her sit silently on the chair. She sighed and turned away, quickly bringing over a bowl of noodles with 2 small leaves of cabbage floating on the surface along with some pork fat. "Lily, eat up." The old woman gently placed the bowl on the table in front of her, lovingly reminding her. "Thank you, Mother. It's been so long since I've had a proper meal like this. Mother, where's the 50 taels of silver Peter Parker gave us?" Though the meal wasn't particularly delicious, hunger drove Lily Evans to finish the bowl of noodles without hesitation. She glanced at the old woman holding a yellowish bowl, which contained only a few strands of noodles and a broth so thin one could almost see their reflection. Lily understood the dire state of their lives. Each day was filled with bread and vegetables, with noodles being considered a rare treat. Though her heart ached for their current situation, the thought of what Peter Parker had done to her ignited a spark of defiance. Lifting her patched-up sleeve, she wiped her mouth and raised her head to ask the old woman again. "Where's the money, Mother?" The old woman, looking at her daughter who had just finished a bowl of noodles with a bit of pork fat, couldn't deny that the aroma had made her swallow her own saliva. But knowing her daughter hadn't eaten all day, she had generously given her a large portion. Now hearing Lily inquire about the money immediately after eating, the old woman hesitated, feeling conflicted as she looked at her daughter. "I'm keeping it safe, Lily," she finally replied. "Give it to me. I need it for something," Lily Evans demanded without hesitation, extending her hand. "Lily, I was planning to use that money to buy some rice and noodles to improve our living conditions," the old woman tried to explain. Despite her mother's reluctance, she eventually reached into her pocket and pulled out a small cloth pouch, revealing a few pieces of silver. She looked at Lily and said, "I know our life is hard, but Lily, this money is important for us." "Mother, I don't want free food. I want to use this silver to throw it back in that scoundrel Peter Parker's face and tell him we can live just fine without him." Lily's pride and stubbornness flared up again. The old woman, seeing the simplicity and worn-out state of everything around them, understood how significant this money was. However, recalling the years of emotions and sacrifices that had led to this moment, Lily's fiery personality took over. She grabbed the silver from her mother's hand, spoke her piece, and turned to leave. "Lily, he's someone with power and influence now. It's not just a matter of throwing money in his face. You might not even be able to step through his door." The old woman instinctively tried to stop her, but as soon as she put her bowl down, she saw Lily storming off. Thinking about her daughter's stubbornness and defiance, the old woman felt both heartbroken and worried. She hadn't even finished her meal when Lily left the house. As Lily stepped out of the yard and reached the entrance, she noticed a few women washing clothes by a nearby stream. A bridge crossed the stream, leading to a wide road that headed straight to the capital not far away. "She's heading out again. Look at her," one of the women whispered to the others as Lily approached the stream. A few of them turned to glance at her. "Looks like she's leaving the village. Still hasn't given up, has she?" one woman remarked with a smirk. "She should take a good look at herself. Sure, she might look decent in our village, but how could she ever compare to the daughters of officials?" Another chimed in, gossiping with a tone of disdain. "That's right, Peter Parker. Someone with such a refined appearance. Everyone knows he should marry the daughter of an official. That girl, she seems to be daydreaming." A few women whispered as they watched Lily's figure grow smaller along the main road, unable to suppress their worry, noticing instinctively that Lily was heading toward the bridge. "What business do you have meddling in someone else's affairs? If you have time to gossip here, why not take a good look at yourselves? I, Lily Evans, have been abandoned, so what? But let me tell you, this time when I leave, I will make sure you all look at me differently." Lily Evans, usually unable to tolerate such humiliation, became angrier as her already gloomy mood worsened. Furious, she bent down, picked up a large stone by her feet, cursed, and hurled it straight into the stream in front of the women. Water splashed everywhere, causing the women to shriek and dodge, only to see mud splatter onto their clothes and faces. Lily Evans coldly addressed them, then turned and crossed the bridge. This girl truly. It was indeed the middle of autumn. The women, now drenched with water, and their clothes nearly soaked through, were furious and wanted to chase after her. Just as they were about to move, Lily Evans' mother appeared. "All right, please let this child go. This child is in pain. This old woman, apologize to you all on her behalf. Lily, this child, truly is heading toward the capital." Seeing two women, despite their wet clothes, drop the laundry they were washing to chase after her daughter, Lily's mother couldn't help but step forward to stop them. With an awkward expression and even pleading eyes, she addressed them. Lily Evans' mother was an elderly woman with a helpful nature, maintaining good relationships in the village. Although the women were angry, they could only grumble a few words before picking up their freshly washed clothes and heading back. Lily Evans' mother crossed the bridge, intending to follow her daughter, but remembering that the house door was still left open, she could only turn back. Chapter 3. The merchant by the bridge. Lily Evans had left the village, heading straight for the main road. Beyond the village lay a town, and passing through it would eventually lead to the capital. It was said that Peter Parker was in this town, possibly near the grandest and most luxurious house there. Despite her anger, Lily found walking for over an hour unbearable, her legs aching terribly. This won't do. I need to figure something out, or I might not reach the town before nightfall. Sir, wait a moment, please wait. Staring at the long road ahead, Lily Evans felt utterly helpless. Villagers usually took horse-drawn carts to the town to sell goods, a journey that took 2 to 3 hours. Walking, however, might mean she wouldn't arrive even by nightfall. Feeling desperate, she could only trudge along, hoping for some help. Unexpectedly, the sound of horse hooves reached her ears. It was an old man driving a cart, his spirits high, with several sacks and some fresh vegetables loaded on the back. Casting aside any hesitation, Lily stepped onto the main road, waving her arms and shouting toward the old man approaching. "Young lady, what's the matter?" the old man asked cheerfully, pulling the reins to stop the horse. He looked at Lily, standing not far from the cart, and furrowed his brows. "I need a ride to the town ahead. If it's inconvenient, I can pay you," Lily said, her voice slightly nervous as she reached into her clothes to find her money pouch. The old man's rugged face showed a hint of concern. Though unaware of his background, Lily met his gaze, speaking earnestly while fumbling for her pouch. "No need for that, young lady. I'm heading to the town myself to deliver vegetables to a wealthy household. I heard the official's daughter is getting married tomorrow, and the groom is said to be from a village not far behind us. I need to make the delivery quickly. Hop on, young lady." "What's wrong?" The old man noticed her sweat-drenched face and patched clothing, realizing she must be a poor girl. He stopped the carriage to let her on. Although Lily Evans had already taken her seat, upon hearing what he said, a rare, peculiar expression appeared on her face, and she couldn't help but ask, "Oh, it's nothing, sir. I'm just touched. You're so kind. Let's go." The old man's words, though Lily Evans knew he meant no harm, still left her with an unexplainable sadness. Her eyes reddened. She understood that this was her body's subconscious reaction. Though helpless, she forced a smile, wiping away the tears at the corner of her eyes under the guise of wiping sweat. Clenching her hands to suppress the sorrow in her heart, she spoke to the old man and then sat down. "All right. Let's go then." After she finished speaking, the old man smiled faintly and urged the horse forward. She noticed the old man's cart was loaded with sacks filled with what appeared to be potatoes, along with a basket of fresh greens. Finding a relatively softer spot, Lily Evans settled herself. 2 hours later, the two of them reached the town ahead. Upon entering the town, she glanced at the clock and saw it was still early. Lily Evans asked the old man to stop the carriage, bid him farewell, and then walked along a nearby street. This ancient street was truly bustling and lively. Many men and women were dressed in splendid attire. On both sides of the road were small stalls displaying a variety of toys and goods. Observing those around her, even though they were dressed in simple clothes, compared to her, she truly felt impoverished. If I go looking for him like this, forget about others, even I would feel mortified. It seems I have to find a way to make myself presentable. That way, even if I can't vent my anger, at least I can maintain some dignity. Oh yes, I also need to write a divorce letter. I refuse to believe that Peter Parker, upon receiving my letter, could remain calm and proceed with marrying the daughter of a high-ranking official as if nothing happened. Looking down at her patched and tattered clothing, Lily Evans couldn't help but feel just how poor she truly was. Thinking about these things, she strolled through the streets, searching for business opportunities. This town, located near the capital, was frequented not only by high-ranking officials, but also by various aristocrats. Thus, Lily Evans patiently walked along the road until she unknowingly arrived at a casino. Realizing that this place might be the quickest way to make money, she paused at the entrance. Looking at the two towering guards at the door, she instinctively tightened her grip on the banknote in her hand. In the end, she decided to leave. Depending on luck like this, if she won, it would be great, but what if she lost? She couldn't afford the risk. After wandering for over an hour without any leads, she found herself on a bridge, though she wasn't sure when she had arrived there. At the bridge's entrance, she heard someone shouting, "Selling iron cat, 30 taels each. Also, spirit stones, 10 taels per stone." Iron cat? Spirit stone? 30 taels, 10 taels? Sir, these are nothing more than a broken iron cat and an ordinary stone. Why are they so expensive? Lily Evans naturally glanced over and saw an old man in coarse clothing, sitting in the autumn breeze. His attire was only slightly better than hers. The wind on the bridge was strong, and it was a place rarely visited by people. Adding to that, it was late autumn, and the evening had already fallen, making the area even more deserted. In front of the old man was a pitch-black iron cat, about the size of a regular cat, with a sign behind it listing the price as 30 taels of silver. Beside it was a stone that appeared entirely ordinary, yet it was priced at 10 taels. Although she didn't fully understand the value of ancient currency, she knew that a single tael of silver could be worth hundreds of modern yuan. For just a few damaged items, the high prices seemed unreasonable. She bent down, puzzled, and playfully fiddled with the iron cat and the stone while questioning the old man. Chapter 4. Buying the iron cat and stones with 40 taels. Young lady, don't underestimate these items. They are all heirlooms passed down from my ancestors. My family used to be a prominent household in the capital, but by my generation, we've fallen on hard times. These are the treasures of our household, but my wife is gravely ill and urgently needs money. If it weren't absolutely necessary, I would never sell these. If you can't afford them, don't bother flipping through them. I'll find someone else to buy them. Selling iron cat, and spirit stone. Iron cat for 30 taels each, spirit stone for 10 taels per piece. The old man's face bore the marks of a hard life. Seeing Lily Evans flipping through his iron cat and spirit stone with a mix of disdain and confusion, he shook his head and sighed. Then, noticing her attire, he assumed she couldn't afford these items. He reached out to take them back and began calling out to sell them again. "Oh, sir, aren't you looking down on others too much? That's not. If these are truly heirlooms from your ancestors, I genuinely want to take a closer look." With such an expression, Lily Evans couldn't help but glance at the old man. She spoke, then picked up the iron cat again. This time, she examined it carefully, gently running her fingers over it, observing. Although she initially couldn't discern anything, she thought these might be items left behind by his wealthy ancestors to safeguard the house. This made her more cautious. Unexpectedly, just by gently rubbing them with her fingertips, she managed to notice a few things. "Young lady, if you're not buying or can't afford it, don't waste my time. If you damage it, I might not even be able to sell it for 30 taels. The old man saw her using her fingers to rub, blow on, and then listen closely to the items. He frowned, thinking of his wife lying sick in bed, and couldn't help but look at her with disdain. "Old man, you've really misjudged me. Don't be fooled by my shabby clothes. I can actually afford these things. Here's the deal. I'll buy this cat and these 2 stones. I want all 3. I'll pay you 40 taels. What do you think?" The old man looked at her, and Lily Evans couldn't help but chuckle. She placed the iron cat along with the 2 spirit stones in front of him, waiting for his response. "Young lady, I'm already selling at a loss and you still." As Lily Evans spoke, she truly pulled out 4 silver ingots worth 10 taels each from her chest. The old man couldn't help but feel conflicted. "Old man, this is all my wealth. Seeing you, an elderly man standing in the cold wind, reminds me of my parents. That's why I'm willing to spend everything I have to buy these items. 40 taels, if that's not enough, let's just pretend I didn't say anything, and you can keep trying to sell them." The old man hesitated, thinking about what Lily had just noticed about the iron cat. Its material was certainly not ordinary iron. If it wasn't iron, it could be bronze or even silver, which would justify a much higher price. The iron cat alone was worth at least 50 taels of silver, given its weight. However, seeing the old man's sturdy build and considering he was still out selling at this hour, Lily Evans, appearing seasoned and confident, spoke to him again. She placed the items down, carefully pocketed her silver, and turned to leave. Wait a moment, young lady. I'll sell them to you. I should head back anyway. My wife needs someone to care for her." Lily's words, coupled with the old man's anxious look, made him glance around. The weather had already turned to mid-autumn, and with the sudden gusts of wind, the approaching evening chill was undeniable. Thinking that no one else would show up at this point, though feeling a bit reluctant, the old man still called Lily Evans back. He then placed the 3 items in front of her. "Wouldn't it have been better to do this earlier, old man? Take this silver, it's yours. These items are mine now. This bag, let me take it, I can use it to wrap them. Goodbye." The man looked at her as Lily Evans smiled gently. She first picked up the iron cat, handed the silver to the old man, then glanced at the cloth bag he had placed nearby. Seeing the old man nod in agreement, she carefully packed the 3 items into the bag, waved goodbye to him, and walked away. In times like these, even though 40 taels isn't much, at least I finally have the money to treat my wife's illness," the old man murmured as he watched her leave. He then collected the 40 taels of silver, tidied up the cloth spread on the ground, and headed toward the pharmacy that was about to close. Chapter 5. Iron Cat Turns into Silver Cat. Lily Evans held the iron cat and the spirit stone, instinctively wanting to find an inn to stay at first. However, as she approached the entrance of a pawnshop, she hesitated, considering the components inside the iron cat. After a moment of deliberation, she decided to carry her bag inside. The shopkeeper at the counter was busy tapping on an abacus. Upon seeing her walk in with a bag in hand, he glanced at her attire, and assumed she was just a poor girl trying to pawn off something worthless. He raised his head briefly to instruct an assistant nearby before returning to his calculations. The assistant, following orders, cast a dismissive glance at her. "Young lady, what do you want to pawn? If it's just some junk from your house, bring it here," he said, his tone filled with impatience as he stepped aside to stand behind the thick windscreen at the counter. "What? Just because I'm wearing tattered clothes, you're looking down on me? Call your boss over here and tell him I've got something valuable to pawn." The assistant, his face full of disdain, made Lily Evans bristle with anger. She glared at him and turned her attention to the shopkeeper still working at the counter. "Valuable? Young lady, don't joke with me. What valuable item could you possibly have?" The assistant's arrogance only grew as he looked at her, his expression even more condescending. He couldn't help but sneer, his eyes filled with scorn for the so-called valuable item she mentioned. "Hey, what's that supposed to mean? Is this how you do business, judging people just by their shabby clothes? Shopkeeper, come here and take a look at this. Tell me how much it's worth." The assistant, seeing such a situation, couldn't help but make Lily Evans angry. She spoke to the person with a tone of frustration, her face showing arrogance as she glanced at the assistant. After speaking, she turned her head to look at the shop owner, then took out the iron cat and asked him, "Oh, let me see. Isn't this just an ordinary iron cat? Young lady, for this iron cat, at most, I can only offer you 1 or 2 silver coins." The shop owner, seeing her expression, put down his abacus and walked over. The assistant, noticing the shop owner approaching, turned back to continue with other tasks. The shop owner took the iron cat from Lily Evans' hands, examined it briefly, and couldn't help but chuckle lightly as he looked at her. "Shop owner, are you sure you're not mistaken? This is a treasure used by wealthy families to guard their homes, and you're saying it's only worth 1 or 2 silver coins? Take a closer look." Hearing the shop owner's words, even though Lily Evans was confident in her heart, his statement made her feel uneasy. Thinking about the item's solid and heavy appearance, though reluctant, she still pushed the iron cat towards the shop owner and said, "Oh, really? Let me check, wait a moment. It's truly silver, a piece of pure silver. Young lady, you have a sharp eye." The shop owner's expression shifted, and he withdrew his previously dismissive gaze. Taking the iron cat back for a closer inspection, he couldn't find anything unusual at first. Then, he grabbed a small iron tool from the side and gently scraped the surface. To his surprise, with just a light scrape, a white, shiny layer appeared beneath the black coating. Looking more closely, it was unmistakably silver. With a doubtful expression, the shop owner quickly used the iron tool to scrape off the entire black coating. What emerged was a large silver cat, shaped like a full-size feline. Upon seeing this, the shop owner's eyes lit up as he looked at Lily Evans and said, "Ha ha, I told you. A treasure used by wealthy families to guard their homes can't just be an ordinary iron cat. Shop owner, how much do you think this is worth?" The shop owner's expression made the entire iron cat gleam brilliantly. Seeing the large piece of silver, Lily Evans felt as if a heavy stone had been lifted from her heart. Overjoyed, she looked at the shop owner and asked, "To be honest, if you want to exchange this for silver, then it would truly hold value. If the young lady urgently needs money, this old man can help you exchange it." Lily Evans's expression drew the shopkeeper's serious gaze as he spoke, raising 4 fingers after finishing his sentence. "Isn't that too little?" Seeing the shopkeeper raise 4 fingers, Lily Evans was momentarily confused. The ancient currency units and the weight of a silver cat left her unable to calculate immediately. Frowning slightly, she continued to bargain. "Young lady, for 1,000 taels of silver is no small amount. How about this? I'll add another 200 taels. But if you keep bargaining, this old man will truly suffer a loss." The shopkeeper, sensing from Lily Evans's reaction that she found the amount insufficient, reluctantly furrowed his brow and gritted his teeth as he added another 200 taels, his expression clearly saying the deal would fall through if she refused. "All right then, for 1,200 taels it is. Shopkeeper, please help me exchange it into 4 1,000 tael notes, and the remaining 200 taels in silver coins. Oh, and also, could you take a look at these 2 stones and tell me their worth?" Hearing the shopkeeper mention 4,000 taels, Lily Evans was secretly surprised, thinking her hesitation had earned her an extra 200 taels. With a resigned expression, she agreed and instructed the shopkeeper. She watched as the shopkeeper handed her 4 1,000 tael notes, confirming the imperial seal on them, along with the 200 taels of silver coins. Afterward, she took out 2 black stones, their color indistinguishable, and handed them to the shopkeeper for appraisal. Chapter 6. The Rare Blood Jade. "Oh, let me see." With his previous experience, the shopkeeper said nothing. He carefully took the stone she handed over and examined it. Slowly, he used a piece of metal to scrape away the thin outer layer of the stone, revealing a blood-red gem inside. "Red?" Witnessing this, Lily Evans couldn't help but express her surprise. "This is blood jade, a rare gem. These things can actually be used to ward off evil spirits. Young lady, this item of yours." The shopkeeper carefully observed the 2 blood-red jades in her hand. His eyes reflected astonishment, along with an uncommon mix of respect and envy for the treasure she held. Ha ha, if this can ward off evil, I'll keep it. Shopkeeper, this blood jade is as big as a chicken egg. If I were to sell it, how much would it be worth? Seeing the shopkeeper's amazed expression, she knew the item was valuable. Although in her past life she had never been involved in the gemstone trade, Lily Evans could tell this was no ordinary item. With that, she almost snatched the 2 radiant red stones from the shopkeeper's hands, tucked them into her chest, and, while accepting the small amount of silver coins he handed her, curiously asked, "This blood jade, one this large, is probably worth at least 1,000 taels of silver, right? Young lady, please accept this money. Be careful on your way. I won't see you off," the shopkeeper said, watching her cautiously tuck the stones away. He spoke as he observed her finish collecting her silver and turned to leave. Respectfully, he escorted her to the door. "I never imagined that with just 50 taels of silver, I could exchange it for so much money. Peter Parker, just you wait. With this money in hand, I'll definitely find a man 10 times better than you. Tomorrow, I'll make you regret it. Otherwise, wouldn't all my feelings have been wasted? Tomorrow is your wedding day. I, the village girl you abandoned, must give you a gift worthy of the occasion, right?" Leaving the pawnshop, Lily held the banknote in her hand, her eyes flickering with a spark as she thought of Peter Parker, the man who had betrayed her love and treated her poorly. After a moment, she turned and walked briskly to a nearby tailor's shop, where she purchased a clean, simple outfit and changed into it. After inquiring with the shopkeeper, she immediately headed straight for the nearest security bureau. "Miss you." 2 men stood guard at the entrance, dressed neatly, clearly security escorts with some martial skills. Seeing Lily approach, one of them was surprised and scrutinized her carefully. "Miss, do you have any business with our security bureau?" Upon being asked, Lily paused and politely replied, "Yes, I have something I wish to negotiate." Hearing this, the escort master nodded slightly and said, "Oh, please follow me." He then turned back to announce, "Master, we have a guest seeking our protection services for their goods." Although Lily was dressed simply, her delicate features left the escort master without much hesitation as he led her inside. Reaching the inner courtyard, she was greeted by the sight of a robust middle-aged man with a sharp gaze and an air of alertness. He had a beard on his chin and was instructing a group of people practicing martial arts, all dressed in the same attire as the escort master. "Continue your training. Young lady, what goods do you wish to entrust to us?" The man nodded upon hearing his disciple's words, gave instructions to the others, and then began walking toward one side while addressing Lily, who followed behind him. "I'm not here to entrust goods. I need a bodyguard, someone who can stay close and protect me for 3 days. Do you accept such a task?" The man's upright and decisive demeanor made Lily smile faintly as she explained her purpose. Her words caused the middle-aged man to furrow his brows thoughtfully. "We established this escort agency to help others. With your request, young lady, I naturally accept. 3 days, correct? I can assign 2 people, but as for the price..." The middle-aged man smiled gently in response to Lily's politeness. However, when it came to the price, he appeared somewhat hesitant as he looked at her. "The price is not an issue, but you must select 2 skilled individuals to ensure my safety. Here are 30 taels as a deposit. In 3 days, I will provide an additional 20 taels. What do you think?" In the past, Lily would never have spent money so freely. But considering Peter Parker's current status and her plan to disrupt his wedding, she at least needed to ensure her own escape. Thus, she decided to hire bodyguards. Watching the man take the money, Lily smiled faintly and pulled out 30 taels of silver from her robe, handing it to him. Once again, she looked at him with anticipation. All right. I happen to have 2 female disciples who can stay close and ensure your safety. Daisy Blackwood, Luna Young. Seeing Lily's satisfaction, the man responded in kind, speaking as he called out loudly. At his call, 2 young women with delicate, charming appearances approached. Following their master's instructions, both sides quickly completed the handover process, sealing the agreement with handprints. As night fully descended, Lily left the escort agency with Daisy Blackwood and Luna Young, heading toward the Golden Barrel Tavern, the largest establishment in town. Chapter 7. The Handsome Man Who Enchants Millions of Girls. Miss, would you like to dine or stay? Daisy Blackwood will help you book a room. Lily strode confidently into the Golden Barrel Tavern, the largest and most luxurious establishment in town, reserved only for high-ranking officials and nobles. Though her attire was simple, her refined and elegant demeanor radiated an air of nobility, prompting Daisy Blackwood and Luna Young to step forward and inquire. To dine. Lily smiled faintly at their reaction, her steps light as she moved inside. Miss, the Golden Barrel Tavern is extremely expensive. If you wish to dine, then. The silk-clad attendant standing at the entrance eyed her with disdain, blocking her path. His meaning was clear. He doubted they could afford it. Expensive? So what? I can afford it. Whether it's 50 taels or 10 taels per dish, it's not an issue. Is this enough? The attendant's contemptuous attitude irritated Lily. She furrowed her brows and gave him a cold glance before pulling out a handful of silver coins from her garment, just some loose change she had on her. Yes, of course. Miss, please come in. Upon seeing the silver in Lily's hand, the attendant's expression immediately shifted. He bowed deeply, his tone now full of respect as he ushered them inside. Truly like a dog that changes its face upon seeing silver, Lily remarked coldly, letting out a slight laugh before leading Daisy Blackwood and Luna Young inside. Let's sit here. Attendant, bring us the finest tea. Lily ascended to the second floor, selecting an elegant room at the center. After taking her seat, she placed 100 taels of silver on the table and turned to the attendant. Yes, miss. Would you prefer the premium Dragonwell tea or... Looking at the silver on the table, the waiter immediately bowed respectfully and fawningly asked, Jade Springdew. Is there a menu? Just these dishes will do. Lily took the menu from him, glanced through it briefly, and casually ordered a few dishes. These dishes were all famous delicacies from high-end hotels in modern times. Ha ha, young lady. These dishes are currently quite scarce at the Golden Barrel Tavern, and the price, well, young lady. Hearing her list the names of the dishes, the waiter's expression subtly shifted, no longer carrying the disdain it initially had. He looked again at her attire, feeling a bit conflicted inside. Price is not an issue, just bring them up. It's not like I can't afford it. Will 1,000 taels suffice? Lily noticed the waiter's expression and smiled lightly. She gracefully picked up the teacup in front of her, took a sip, and at the same time placed a 1,000 tael banknote on the table, gently asking, Enough, young lady, please wait a moment. I'll immediately go and instruct the kitchen to prepare it. The waiter hurriedly responded, his expression changing instantly as he spoke while turning to leave. Wait, waiter, I have a question for you. Among the noble officials who often visit this town, is there any outstanding young, single gentleman? Can you tell me about him? Lily called out, stopping the waiter in his tracks. The reason she came to this tavern was precisely because it was a place frequented by many people. Moreover, a grand tavern like this would undoubtedly be a gathering spot for the wealthy and influential. To find a man who met her ideal standards, she thought the best way was to inquire with the waiter. A young, single gentleman? And outstanding as well? Young lady, you. Lily's unexpected question left the waiter stunned, his eyes filled with doubt as he looked at her. Though the tavern often had people asking for information, her question was truly unusual. "I'm just asking casually. I want to know what kind of man the young ladies in the capital and this town usually admire. That's why I asked you, waiter." Under the waiter's doubtful gaze, Lily Evans smiled gently, her tone light yet calm. When it came to outstanding young, single gentlemen in the capital, one could not fail to mention Liam Sterling, the only son of the esteemed Grand Chancellor Sterling. Not only did his father hold a prestigious position as a first-rank official, second only to the emperor, but Liam himself was a renowned business prodigy. Young and accomplished, he owned multiple branches of the Golden Barrel Tavern, managed diverse industries, and possessed a handsome appearance and composed demeanor. He was the ideal figure in the hearts of countless young women. Hearing Lily's question, the waiter smiled faintly, wiping the table while pouring more tea, not forgetting to heap praise on the owner of the Golden Barrel Tavern. "Really? Liam Sterling? Listening to you, he sounds like a legend. And with a look of respect on your face, could it be that he's your boss?" Lily smirked slightly, her curiosity piqued as she questioned further. The waiter's words, as if he had witnessed it all personally, only deepened her intrigue. "Ha ha, young lady, you guessed correctly. The owner of the Golden Barrel Tavern is none other than young Master Sterling. Not only does he own the Golden Barrel Tavern in this small town, but he also has establishments in many other places. Those who associate with the young master are all dukes, nobles, or princes. When it comes to wealth and status, the man whom millions of girls dream of marrying as their husband is undoubtedly our boss. Even princes find it hard to compare to him." The waiter smiled proudly as he spoke about his master, then paused briefly. His eyes carried a hint of mystery, and his voice lowered as if to emphasize his words. "That's right, he is the only son of the Prime Minister. Truly the dream suitor of thousands of young ladies." "Thank you, waiter. Liam Sterling, huh? That name is indeed not bad. But I wonder if the real person lives up to your praise." Lily smiled and nodded in agreement. Casually, she rewarded the waiter with 10 silver coins, watching him bow in gratitude before leaving. Afterward, she furrowed her brows slightly, murmuring to herself. Just then, she heard the sound of footsteps as the waiter returned, bowing respectfully to invite a young master inside. The young master wore a white long robe, his appearance truly elegant and outstanding. His handsome features, perfect face, tall stature, and the noble, cold aura exuding from him made Lily glance at him several more times. From her private room, she could clearly observe every guest ascending the stairs. Chapter 8. A handsome man like that behind the young master stood 2 subordinates dressed in uniform brocade robes, their styles mirroring that of the young master, creating a sense of unified elegance. Despite the warm welcome from the innkeeper, the young master merely nodded slightly without uttering a word and directly entered the room adjacent to where Lily was seated. "All right, our young master doesn't like being surrounded by others like this. If you need anything, we'll call for you. Young master, please enjoy your tea." Though the young master's striking appearance drew attention, his noble and aloof demeanor made the innkeeper instinctively eager to please. However, his enthusiasm received no response. The young master walked straight into the room, followed by a subordinate in a green robe with an extraordinary aura. This man blocked the innkeeper, who was about to approach, took the teapot, and carried it inside. The private room in the Golden Barrel Tavern was separated only by a thin silk curtain. As a result, Lily, seated nearby, could clearly observe every movement in the adjacent room. The subordinate in the green robe stepped forward and poured tea for the young master. Once finished, he respectfully retreated to the side. "Ethan Walker, you were originally the young master of the Minister of Revenue's residence. Following me, don't you feel wrong?" The white-robed young master, with his elegant, slender hands, lifted the teacup, took a sip, placed it down, and asked the green-robed subordinate. "Ethan Walker willingly follows the Lord. There's no sense of grievance or otherwise," replied Ethan Walker, the man in the green robe. He smiled awkwardly, his gaze filled with reverence for the young master. "Your words are quite clever. Ethan Walker willingly follows me, but what about Owen Sterling? You were the second young master of the Minister of War's residence. Instead of remaining as the Sterling family's young master, you chose to follow me. Don't you harbor any resentment?" Hearing this, the corners of the white-robed young master's lips curled into a faint smile. His smile was so captivating that it could mesmerize anyone. He spoke leisurely, then turned to ask the man behind him, a fellow white-robed young master, equally striking in appearance, but willingly serving as a subordinate. "Is the Lord reproaching Owen Sterling?" Owen Sterling responded, his tone calm. "Owen Sterling understands the mysterious and noble status of the Lord in both the business world and the Phoenix Soaring Kingdom. Following you, Owen Sterling harbors no resentment whatsoever." Owen Sterling, with a sorrowful expression, spoke while expressing his loyalty, adding a deeper sense of solemnity to the private room's atmosphere. "Ha ha, the two of you. If Liam Sterling were to say such words to me, I would truly be very pleased." The young man in white robes smiled faintly, a hint of amusement in his eyes, before lowering his gaze to continue savoring the tea in his cup. Lily, sitting nearby, tried her best to listen to the conversation. However, amidst the noisy ambience of the Golden Barrel Tavern, coupled with their low voices, she could only catch 3 words. "Liam Sterling. Liam Sterling? Could it be that the man in the adjacent room is the owner of the Golden Barrel Tavern, Liam Sterling?" Those few words startled Lily. The image of a man flashed through her memory, a person of both status and noble demeanor, possessing a striking appearance far surpassing the unfaithful Peter Parker by 100-fold. Not to mention the young man himself, even the 2 subordinates in green and white robes beside him exuded a superiority that overshadowed Peter Parker. "Daisy Blackwood, wait here for a moment. I'll head to the next room." With this thought, Lily turned to instruct Daisy Blackwood and Luna Young. Seeing their puzzled nods, she stood up, left the table, and made her way toward the private room next door. "Do you have some business here?" As Lily reached the door, a figure in green robes swiftly appeared, blocking her path in an instant. The man in green, the bodyguard accompanying the man in white, looked at her with cold, emotionless eyes as his voice carried an icy tone. Lily instinctively halted. Standing this close, she could clearly see how striking this man truly was. His high-quality silk attire, the cold, dignified expression on his face, and the sword at his side all pointed to his role as a loyal protector of the man in white inside the room. I wish to meet your master. I have a matter to request his help with." The chill emanating from this man made Lily feel as though she had stepped into the depths of a freezing winter. The coldness seemed to seep from the soles of her feet to every corner of her body, causing her to shiver slightly. But remembering that she was, after all, a modern girl who had transmigrated into this world, she forced herself to calm down. Despite her inner fear, and the thought that even a light push from this man could send her sprawling, Lily took a deep breath. Her slender hand clenched tightly, her nails pressing into her palm as she steadied herself. Her gaze moved past the man in green to the figure of the man in white sitting leisurely inside the room, and she spoke up. From this angle, the side profile of the man in white became even more striking. His features were like a masterpiece from an ancient painting, his eyebrows bold and elegantly arched, accentuating the already cold and distant aura he exuded. This added a layer of depth and mystery to his presence. His flawless features weren't just captivating from the front. Even his side profile was mesmerizing. Every movement, Even the simplest posture as he sat radiated an air of nobility that drew others in irresistibly. The man in white made no other movements, merely gazing out of the window beside him with a calm demeanor. Yet, Lily felt as though he was quietly listening to everything happening around him. "Our master is not someone you can meet just because you wish to. If there's no urgent matter, please return," the man in green, Ethan Walker, said. His gaze swept over Lily from head to toe, pausing briefly on her attire, which was far less refined than that of even a typical noble lady. Though her delicate features were pleasant, they were insignificant compared to the high status of his master. His expression remained cold, as he stood firmly in her way. I really need to meet your master. Don't worry, I won't impose or make any unreasonable requests. I simply want to discuss a business proposal with him. If he agrees to help me, I'll only need 1 day of his time. Just 1 day, and he could earn 4,000 taels. How about that? This deal is worth it, isn't it? No matter how well this tavern is doing, it couldn't possibly make 3,000 taels in a single day. Sir, please. Faced with Ethan Walker's cold demeanor, Lily became increasingly flustered. Seeing that he remained motionless, blocking her way without responding further, she had no choice but to raise her voice and call into the room, toward the man sitting with his back to her. Chapter 9. The Confident Smile. "Miss you." Ethan Walker stared at the young woman before him, the audacious one who dared to request something of his master. Thinking of his master's noble status, and how she had the nerve to speak such words, Ethan's expression darkened, his hand instinctively resting on the hilt of the sword at his waist. "Your master hasn't said anything, has he? Why are you, just a gatekeeper, blocking my way? What? Do you think drawing your sword will scare me?" Seeing Ethan Walker's firm stance, Lily felt a flicker of nervousness. Yet, remembering her purpose, despite her fear, she maintained an unwavering tone, responding to Ethan Walker with boldness. The man in white inside had noticed Lily's presence the moment she approached the door. Watching Ethan Walker blocking her way, and seeing how this young woman, far from retreating, dared to raise her voice in defiance, he couldn't help but find it amusing. Observing Ethan Walker's already cold face growing darker with anger, his lips pressed tightly together, while this girl remained undaunted, speaking with such strength, piqued his curiosity. Those who had encountered him before either trembled with fear or quickly turned to flee. Even the workers at the Golden Barrel Tavern would lower their heads and avoid approaching under just one icy glance from him. But this girl's audacity struck him as different. A faint smile tugged at his lips as he turned to Ethan Walker, his deep voice calm. "Ethan Walker, don't be rude. I'm genuinely intrigued. Let her in. Miss, what would you like me to help you with?" Ethan Walker stepped back, making way. Lily entered, her demeanor composed, her gaze steady, showing no sign of panic. She looked directly at the man in white and slowly spoke. "I want to invite you to accompany me for just 1 day. I'll pay you 4,000 silver coins. What do you think?" The man slightly shifted, appearing right before her eyes. Even as he sat there with a faintly amused look, the noble aura emanating from him compelled others to bow in respect. Just by looking at him, though he remained seated while she stood, Lily couldn't help but feel her mind go blank. This man was truly handsome, his charisma so captivating that even in silence, he exuded an unparalleled majesty and grandeur. Thinking about the possibility that this was truly Liam Sterling, she couldn't help but feel a tinge of regret for how coldly he treated his subordinates. But now that she was here, Lily paused briefly, took a deep breath, and tried to suppress the astonishment in her eyes and the erratic beating of her heart. Looking at him, she finally spoke. "For 1,000 taels? The button on your outfit, can you guess how much it's worth?" Lily's question made the man slightly curl his lips into a faint smile, one that didn't reach his eyes. His slender, elegant fingers pointed to the jade button on his chest as he replied calmly, "Miss, my eyesight is poor. I can't discern its value. But no matter how much wealth there is, it's all yours. I only ask that you spend one day as my companion. Not even the whole day, just until tomorrow noon, and we'll consider the debt settled. Of course, it's only because of your esteemed status that I dare make such a request. If you're unwilling, treat it as though I never said anything. But think about it, half a day in exchange for 4,000 taels of silver. Do you think this deal is unfair to you?" Lily's gaze shifted to the jade button he pointed at. Its material was transparent, pure white, and adorned with intricate patterns, exuding an immeasurable sense of value. Even though she wasn't knowledgeable about jade, she could still perceive its significant worth. Nevertheless, Lily maintained a sincere demeanor, neither arrogant nor submissive. She looked at him directly and spoke. She wasn't someone who killed or robbed. She was merely offering money to invite him. If he refused, she wouldn't press further. Though this man bore an extraordinary identity, she expressed her intentions with straightforward honesty. "So? Does that mean you greatly admire my status, young lady? If so, it just so happens that I'm free tomorrow. I'll accompany you for a morning. Let's meet here tomorrow morning. Ethan Walker, see the guest out." Lily's straightforward demeanor made the man's gaze even more intrigued. Watching her nod, he gave a faint smile but agreed to her request. After speaking, he returned to his original seat and calmly ordered Ethan Walker beside him. "This is half the deposit. By noon tomorrow, I'll hand over the rest." Lily hadn't expected this man, with his cold and distant exterior that made others hesitant to approach, would actually agree to her plea. She offered a gentle, appreciative smile, her eyes fixed on the gentleman in blue as she slowly stepped closer. From within her coat, she carefully took out a banknote, pulling out 2 notes and placing them on the table before him. She softly gave a few instructions and then turned to leave. "Wait. Just from a single statement of mine, you've handed over 2,000 taels so readily. Aren't you afraid I might take the money and go back on my word?" The voice of the man in white rang out, halting her steps. Lily turned her head, her gaze calm yet unwavering as she replied softly, "I am afraid, but I trust that a person of your stature would not go back on their word." The man was momentarily surprised by her composure. His eyes briefly revealed a hint of amusement, but his tone remained indifferent. "And if I really do change my mind?" Faced with this question, Lily showed no sign of wavering. She merely smiled faintly, her clear eyes reflecting a profound depth as she looked directly at him. "If you decide to change your mind, I can only consider myself unlucky. But I believe you won't do that." The man didn't respond immediately. He silently picked up the 2 banknotes, his gaze contemplative. "If that's the case, aren't you still afraid?" he asked, his tone still cold. Though her beauty wasn't extraordinary, at most, it could be described as delicate. Her gentle smile and bright, lively eyes exuded an unusual charm. She rarely smiled, as her difficult life and lingering sorrows had made such moments scarce. Yet, it was precisely the confidence and vibrancy in her smile that left the man momentarily dazed. Amid the bustling atmosphere of the Golden Barrel Tavern, her simple attire seemed somewhat out of place. Yet that smile, those eyes, and the radiant confidence on her face made her a striking presence, one that lingered in the mind of anyone who encountered her. Chapter 10. Success in Recruiting the Beauty. "Ha! Just with your words, trust me, fine, I'll agree to your request. Tomorrow morning, same place, we'll meet again." Lily's confidence and purity made the man, who rarely smiled, reveal a toothy grin. As he spoke, he stood up, his gaze fixed on her while extending his hand forward. "A pleasure working with you." Seeing the outstretched hand, It was slender and fair, though not as pale as her own skin, causing Lily to momentarily daze. She didn't think much of it, only feeling as if she had experienced a similar scene in a past life, discussing business, sealing the deal, and then parting ways. Without hesitation, she extended her hand to clasp his, giving it a light shake before letting go, then turned and walked away. An interesting young lady, and the first woman bold enough to initiate a handshake with me. Ethan Walker, investigate this girl's background thoroughly. Once Lily left the room, the man let out a faint smile, his gaze following her retreating figure before gradually pulling back. The smile on his face faded as he looked down at his hand, pondering for a moment before lifting his head and coolly commanding Ethan Walker, who stood beside him. Master, do you truly wish to become a companion to that young lady? Ethan Walker instinctively nodded, but then paused, his eyes filled with doubt as he questioned his master. Do you have any objections? Without turning his head, the man clearly heard the sound of footsteps fading into the distance. In response to Ethan Walker's question, he slightly raised an eyebrow, his tone indifferent as he countered. Ethan Walker would not dare to question the master's decisions. The unusual demeanor of his master only made Ethan Walker more respectful, answering with utmost politeness. Good. Has the food been served yet? At Ethan Walker's deference, the man gave a faint, cold smile. As soon as he finished speaking, a servant promptly brought in the dishes. Meanwhile, Lily had returned to her private room. Looking at the dishes already laid out on the table that she had ordered, she felt a tinge of regret for her earlier impulsiveness. Nonetheless, she sat down and invited Daisy Blackwood and Luna Young to join her for the meal. As a modern woman, Lily didn't pay much attention to such formalities. Considering the host's hospitality, and knowing how expensive dining in this place was, Daisy Blackwood and Luna Young felt a bit hesitant. However, seeing Lily's insistence, they reluctantly took their seats. That's more like it. Everyone is equal. Even though I am your employer, I still hope we can sit together and share a meal. Come on, eat quickly. Afterward, we have a lot to do. Seeing the two looking tense as they sat down, Lily smiled gently, casually serving food for both of them before starting on her own meal. It wasn't that she couldn't afford it before, but she had never let herself suffer when it came to food. Now that she had money, of course, she wanted to indulge and make up for her stomach's past hardships. After all, there was no other way. She had always been picky about food, to the extent that, in order to eat well, she even took the time to learn cooking while working. After the meal, though she felt a slight pang of regret handing over the money for the bill, Lily still reached into her pocket and paid for the meal, which cost a hefty 100 silver coins. Thinking about the 50 coins she had left, she left the Golden Barrel Tavern and led Luna Young and Daisy Blackwood to the most luxurious tailor shop in town. There, she picked out an outfit with a design and material similar to those worn by the wealthy noble ladies she had seen at the Golden Barrel Tavern, purchased it, and changed into it on the spot. She also spent money on a foundation cream and a hairpin, then asked the shopkeeper to help refine her appearance slightly. Though this cost her an additional 30 silver coins, she had no regrets, considering the task she had to handle the next morning. Once her makeover was complete, she admired herself in the shop's mirror. Although her skin still bore traces of the harsh days laboring under the sun, her adept makeup skills, honed from past experience, transformed her appearance into that of a radiant, lively young lady. With this newfound confidence, she stepped out of the tailor's shop alongside Luna Young and Daisy Blackwood. Just now, as you were doing your makeup, it took you no longer than the time to drink a cup of tea, yet you completely transformed your look. With talent like this, I believe you could make a lot of money. Luna Young remarked earnestly, her admiration evident as she gazed at the refreshed and dazzling Lily before her. Really? If that's the case, I somewhat regret not offering to help that noble lady with her makeup earlier. It seems tonight's lodging issue is already solved. Let's go, follow me. Lily responded with a confident smirk. Luna Young's words suddenly brought Lily, who had been immersed in confidence and excitement, back to reality. Thinking about how, after doing her makeup and changing into her outfit, she had received a request from the young lady of a prominent family, who was trying on custom-made clothes nearby, to do her makeup and teach her some cosmetic techniques. Lily simply smiled faintly. A fleeting thought crossed her mind as she turned and headed toward the largest cosmetic store in town, the very place where she had earlier asked Luna Young to buy her a cushion foundation. Even though it was evening, the town's market remained lively and bustling. Autumn had quietly settled in, yet the night scene at the market was still vibrant and full of life. After dinner, people took the opportunity to shop for clothes and cosmetics, as there was still plenty of time left in the evening. Thanks to this, the cosmetic store remained open, its warm yellow lights glowing brightly across the area. Chapter 11. Earning money cleverly. The shop owner, adorned in dazzling jewelry, stood behind the counter enthusiastically introducing various cushion foundations to a few young women dressed like noble ladies. When she saw Lily and her two companions enter, she immediately noticed the servant accompanying Lily seemed somewhat familiar. However, Lily's elegant demeanor and noble beauty led the shop owner to instantly assume she must be the wife of a high-ranking official. Hastily, the shop owner approached them, pulling out an array of colorful cushion foundations from under the counter to showcase. "Are you here to buy cushion foundation, miss? The ones we have here are of excellent quality and come in a wide range of shades. Please feel free to browse. Oh, by the way, your maid just purchased a few items here earlier. If you need additional colors, do take a look." "Ha ha, you're quite enthusiastic, shop owner. I've already bought some earlier. Today, I'm just browsing. This lady here has smooth skin, but lacks a bit of moisture. If she uses this cushion foundation, it will not only hydrate her skin, but also add a radiant glow, significantly enhancing her beauty. Additionally, pairing it with this shade of foundation lightly applied on the eyelids will make her eyes even more alluring and vibrant. Just like this, look at my maid here. See, with makeup like this, it feels as though I've transformed into someone entirely different." Lily smiled faintly at the shop owner's enthusiasm. Then, the shop owner returned to assist the other young ladies still selecting cushion foundations in another corner. Lily stepped forward, focusing her attention on a young woman who appeared to have a high social status. The woman was holding a compact and a blush palette, examining her reflection in the mirror as she tested the products on her face. With a gentle smile, Lily approached, picked up a few compacts in front of the woman, and began explaining and introducing the products. After finishing her explanation, she grabbed a few more items and pulled Luna Young, who was standing beside her, closer. Right there, Lily applied makeup on Luna Young. Under Lily's skillful hands, Luna Young's previously ordinary face was instantly transformed. The makeup not only highlighted her gentle and graceful personality, but also accentuated her serene and refined beauty, leaving everyone around in awe. "Oh, dressed like this, she looks like such a delicate beauty. Miss, could you do my makeup as well? I want to look stunning and leave others speechless," said the noblewoman, breaking her silence. However, the woman with a plain appearance standing next to her couldn't hide her astonishment. Seeing Luna Young's completely transformed look, she couldn't stop praising Lily and eagerly pleaded for her turn. "All right, but it takes effort to do a makeover. Here's the deal. If you want to look beautiful, I can help you, but there's a price. Not too high, just 100 taels per person. How about it?" The shop owner, standing nearby, observed Lily closely. The cushioned foundations Lily had handled earlier were as good as sold. Her remarkable skills left the shop owner amazed, though she merely responded with a subtle smile. Faced with a plea from the woman, Lily smiled faintly, her gaze sweeping over the group, 5 people in total. Judging by their attire, it was clear they could afford the amount. She immediately stated her price. 100 taels? Are you robbing people? The refined woman raised an eyebrow at Lily's words, her tone disapproving. Though she had witnessed Lily transform an ordinary girl into an elegant beauty in moments, she was not easily convinced. In truth, 100 taels for a stunning face that leaves others in awe is worth it. Think about it. If the man you love sees this beauty, could he possibly resist? Of course, if the lady isn't interested, we owe each other nothing. As for the rest of you, would you like to try? 100 taels, and I guarantee an unbelievable transformation. The noblewoman's arrogance didn't bother Lily. She simply smiled faintly. Despite her high status, the woman couldn't hide her haughty nature. However, Lily turned to the other women in the group, gently seeking their opinions. Let me give it a try. You must ensure I look truly beautiful. If I'm not satisfied, I won't pay. But for 100 taels, a face this lovely seems worth it. Lily's words further swayed the woman, who was already tempted. She stepped forward, looked at Lily, and said, Madam, lend me a chair and a mirror for a moment. Young lady, sit down. Relax now, I'll start doing your makeup. If it's not beautiful, I won't charge. The woman spoke as she prepared for Lily to begin. Lily, a professional makeup artist, smiled confidently. She turned to borrow a chair and a mirror from the madam, then carefully examined the girl's skin tone, facial contours, and features. Without hesitation, Lily selected the appropriate foundation and blush and began her work. Before long, a youthful, radiant girl with lively eyes appeared before everyone. Oh, is this really me? I never thought I could look this beautiful. 100 taels, though a bit high, is truly worth it. Here, young lady, your 100 taels. Ha ha, so gorgeous. When Lily finished, the woman opened her eyes and saw the striking transformation in the mirror. Astonished and satisfied, she gently touched her face, then pulled out a 100 tael banknote from her sleeve and handed it to Lily. Indeed, truly beautiful. Seeing her makes me want to put on makeup too. Young lady, would you help me with my makeup as well? The woman's dramatic transformation left those around her in awe. Other women nodded in agreement, stepping forward one by one, eagerly asking Lily to do their makeup too. Chapter 12. Encountering a Tyrant. All right then, let's stick to the previous price, 100 taels per person. If you think it's too expensive, just pretend I didn't say anything. Madam, what do you think? Seeing the women's reactions, Lily felt secretly pleased but maintained a calm expression. She spoke while turning to the shop owner, as if seeking her agreement. Ha ha, yes indeed. The shop owner hadn't expected Lily's makeup skills to be so refined. With just a few simple cosmetics, Lily had transformed an ordinary-looking woman into someone entirely different, leaving everyone amazed. Hearing Lily direct the question to her, the shop owner quickly nodded and smiled awkwardly in agreement. 100 taels in exchange for a beautiful, unique face is truly worth it. Although it's a bit pricey, it's reasonable. Someone like me never thought that with just a little makeup, I could retain my natural features yet look completely different. Lily reiterated the price, causing some of the women to show hesitant expressions. Clearly, they had hoped to use their numbers to negotiate, but they didn't expect the shop owner to support Lily. Moreover, the woman who had just undergone a complete transformation also nodded in agreement. 100 taels may not be a small amount, but it's truly worth it. It's just 100 taels. I can afford it. Young lady, please help us with our makeup as well. Not only preserving our unique features, but also highlighting the most attractive aspects of our faces. As long as you do it beautifully, each of us will gladly pay you 100 taels of silver." Hearing the words of the other woman, the group of girls glanced at each other, their gazes eventually settling on the slightly attractive woman who had been the first to speak. That woman attentively observed the transformation of the person Lily had just finished applying makeup to. Her haughty demeanor remained unchanged, but a hint of curiosity flickered in her eyes. She arrogantly stepped forward, raising her head high, signaling her readiness for Lily to work her magic. "I already said I wouldn't break my promise. Please have a seat. I'll take care of each of you one by one." Seeing the leading woman appear intrigued, Lily smiled softly. She pulled over the chair she had borrowed earlier from the shopkeeper, gently inviting the woman to sit before beginning her makeup. With her skillful hands and delicate touch, it took only moments for women with ordinary or slightly pretty features to transform into radiant beauties, leaving onlookers in awe. A few of them nodded in satisfaction, though they still felt Lily's price was somewhat steep. Nevertheless, they happily handed over their money in the end. "Ha ha, take care, ladies, take care. I never imagined the young lady here would have such remarkable skills. With just a little effort, she's made everyone so stunning, and even helped me sell quite a bit of makeup too." The shopkeeper beamed as she watched the women purchase the cosmetics Lily had used during their makeovers. Seeing them admire their beautifully enhanced faces with satisfied smiles, the shopkeeper couldn't hide her delight. She courteously saw the customers off, then turned back to thank Lily, noticing her carefully tucking the banknotes into her sleeve. "Ha ha, you're too kind, shopkeeper. This is merely a mutually beneficial collaboration. In fact, I've been meaning to discuss a long-term partnership with you. I'll handle the makeup, and you'll sell the cosmetics. It's bound to be a win-win situation. However, I have some pressing matters today, so I won't take up more of your time. Let's arrange a specific date to discuss this in detail later. What do you think?" Faced with the shopkeeper's warm hospitality, Lily responded modestly with a gentle smile. Afterward, she smiled again, while subtly inquiring about the use of the money. "That would be wonderful. I'll eagerly await your next visit. Take care, young lady." Hearing Lily's words, the shopkeeper was filled with anticipation. If she could truly collaborate with Lily's extraordinary skills, her cosmetics would undoubtedly sell like hotcakes. She smiled contentedly, giving instructions to her servant while respectfully escorting Lily out. Lily, accompanied by Luna Young and Daisy Blackwood, left the cosmetics shop and stepped into a narrow street. Unexpectedly, after walking only a short distance, a group of people suddenly emerged from both sides of the road, quickly surrounding them. What do you intend to do?" Although Lily knew that Luna Young and Daisy Blackwood had some skills, seeing the group of men suddenly appear from the corners of the street and encircle them from all sides made her feel tense. Instinctively, she moved closer to the two sisters, trying to remain calm as she asked, "What do you want?" The man in the lead, rough in appearance, with greedy and arrogant eyes, sported a thick beard and wore coarse, fabric clothing. He smirked and spoke, "Young lady, we just saw you at the cosmetics shop. In just a moment, you spent 4 or 5 banknotes, each worth 100 taels. For a noble woman like you, it's probably nothing, but for us, it's a fortune. They say wealth should be shared, and since we're in need, we'd like you to share some with us." As he spoke, he extended his hand, his attitude overbearing, clearly intending to force her. Lily raised an eyebrow, her gaze icy. She let out a cold laugh, her voice full of defiance. "Oh, so you want my money? What if I refuse? Luna Young, Daisy Blackwood, deal with them." The men around them burst into laughter upon hearing this, their eyes not only greedy, but also revealing more sinister intentions, as if they wanted to take more than just money. Though a bit worried inside, Lily maintained a calm demeanor. She turned to give instructions to Luna Young and Daisy Blackwood, but just as the two hesitated slightly, Lily suddenly charged forward, launching an attack on the group of men. Taking advantage of their surprise, she clutched her money pouch tightly and quickly ran toward a crowded area, leaving the men standing there, stunned and watching her retreat. Chapter 13. Captured. You little brat, trying to escape, huh? Chase her down immediately. The leader, along with a few others, was thrown into disarray by Luna Young and Daisy Blackwood, two girls with some martial skills. Taking advantage of the chaos, Lily quickly turned on her heels and ran. Moments later, as he regained his composure, the leader spotted Lily heading toward a busier area. Though the evening was dim, and the streets were sparsely populated, the direction she ran toward still had some activity. Furious, he shouted loudly, despite being entangled by Luna Young and Daisy Blackwood. He barked orders at the two subordinates nearby. Get up now! Don't make me repeat myself. The young lady of my household isn't someone you can mess with so easily. Lily had faith in Luna Young and Daisy Blackwood's decent martial arts skills, but she hadn't anticipated that they could only hold their ground against 5 or 6 thugs at best. With no other choice, she turned and ran, her heart heavy with reluctance. However, just as she reached the edge of the street where there were passers-by, she was blocked by 2 thugs from both sides. Seeing them closing in, Lily couldn't help but feel a surge of panic. Glancing back, she noticed Luna Young and Daisy Blackwood still holding their own, but unable to break free from their opponents. Clenching her teeth, Lily pulled out her hairpin, raising it as if it were a weapon, her icy gaze issuing a warning. We've been around here long enough, and we've never seen you before. Not to mention those 2 girls, they're just escorts from the security company up ahead. You hired them as your maids? If you were truly from a noble family, why wouldn't you have any attendants or servants with you? Hand over the money now, or else. The 2 thugs eyed Lily's cold demeanor, unable to deny that her seemingly fragile appearance held a certain allure. But considering the situation, they didn't want to stir up more trouble, and only aimed to grab the money quickly. One of them smirked, stepping closer to Lily, extending his hand as he demanded the money. If not, then what? Do you think a lady would be afraid of you? Get lost, or don't blame me for being rude. Lily shouted loudly, her eyes full of determination as she gripped her hairpin tightly, ready to confront them. The 2 men, with their aggressive demeanor, made Lily realize she was truly facing scoundrels. Although she had no special status, handing over her money so easily was not Lily Evans' style. Sure enough, seeing the cautious yet wary glances of the 2 men, it was clear they didn't dare to rob her outright. Lily responded coldly, clutching her hairpin tightly, and decisively swung it toward the man extending his hand for money. This little girl, you're pretty tough, aren't you? But so what? Lily, let's go! I don't believe 2 men like us couldn't handle you. At first, I just wanted the money, but now you've scratched my hand. Fine, I won't be polite anymore. Lily, grab her. Not just the money, I'm sure the boss would love a feisty and pretty girl like her. Lily's sudden action made the man reflexively pull his hand back, but not before his wrist was scratched. Seeing the blood dripping from the wound, though it wasn't deep, her defiance completely enraged him. His eyes flashed with fury as he coldly wiped the blood from his wrist, then shouted angrily. Immediately, he and his accomplice lunged forward, their hands reaching straight for Lily. Cornered against the wall with no way to escape, she could only try her best to resist. Let me go! Let me go! My hairpin! Damn it! Let me go! I'm telling you, I'm the fiancé of Liam Sterling. If he finds out you dared to treat me like this, He'll make sure you disappear from this town forever." Hearing her screams, the two men only tightened their grip. Lily tried to escape, but as soon as she took a step, they grabbed her wrist. Her hairpin, her only weapon, fell to the ground. The two men showed no mercy, yanking her back forcefully. Seeing Luna Young and Daisy Blackwood sprawled on the ground, beaten and too frightened to fight back, Lily began to feel true fear. The two men twisted her arm behind her back, holding her tightly to prevent her from struggling. The leader, his face bruised and battered, coldly approached her. At that moment, Lily felt the overwhelming terror engulf her. Thinking about how Luna Young and Daisy Blackwood couldn't protect her, Lily instinctively squirmed and shouted loudly, desperately mentioning Liam Sterling's name to scare them. In this place, Liam Sterling was the only person she knew with some reputation. She didn't know anyone else, nor did she want to bring up Peter Parker, whom she despised. Young Master Sterling? The reputation of young Master Sterling in this town is well known. Little girl, don't think you can use those words to scare us. If you refuse to cooperate, don't blame me for being ruthless. Drag her away. I don't just want money, I want her too. As for the other two brats, tie them up and throw them into the middle of the street. A young girl as fresh and pretty as this one, I bet she's still a virgin. In that case, I'll help her discover herself today. Drag her away now. Hearing those words, Lily's body froze. The man sneered, his eyes full of contempt. As he spoke, he gave orders to his subordinates, who immediately stepped forward and pulled Lily aside. As she struggled, an instinctive scream escaped her lips, unexpectedly drawing the attention of bystanders. The man approached her, pulling out an object and shoving it into Lily's mouth. Staring at the girl restrained in his grasp, writhing incessantly, her eyes burning with fury as they glared at him, he turned to give a few instructions to the others. After watching his men deal with Luna Young and Daisy Blackwood nearby, he turned back to Lily. His hand couldn't resist brushing against her face as he spat out mocking words. Once he finished speaking, he paid no mind to the vile laughter erupting from the surrounding crowd, merely smirking before turning away. No! You bastards, you scum! Let me go now! Lily couldn't believe these men dared to act so brazenly. But with her mouth gagged, she could only watch helplessly as passers-by hurried on, none stopping to help. Cruelly dragged away, she struggled desperately, her body twisting and turning, her muffled cries barely audible. Master! As Lily was hauled to a corner of the street, a few figures suddenly appeared. It was a palanquin carried by 4 men dressed in black, accompanied by 2 others clad in black and white. One of the men in black paused, glanced into the palanquin, and spoke in a low voice. Chapter 14. The hero rescues the maiden. Oh! Following the words of the man in black, a deep yet mesmerizing male voice echoed from inside the sedan chair. As he spoke, the chair gently descended, coming to a stop on the rooftop of the street where Lily was being dragged. You scoundrels, let me go! Do you hear? Me? Let go right now. Lily struggled, but the 4 men in black continued to carry the sedan chair, gliding effortlessly across the rooftops as they pursued her. Before long, they brought her to a desolate area, inside a crumbling house with a floor covered in straw. The sedan chair halted on the rooftop, and Lily's furious screams echoed from within. By this time, the cloth gag had been removed from her mouth, but her hands remained tightly bound behind her back. The faint light from a lantern hanging outside cast dim shadows, just enough to reveal the bleak surroundings of the cold, desolate house. The leader approached, reaching out toward Lily. She glared at him fearlessly and, without warning, kicked him squarely in the chest. "Ah, you little brat. You dare kick me? Fine, let's see how you survive this time." The leader gritted his teeth in pain, roaring in anger. He lunged forward, raising his hand to strike Lily hard across the face. Yet she remained undaunted, her eyes blazing with fiery defiance. "So what if I kicked you? Scum like you deserves more than just a kick. I'd make sure you'd wish for death over life." The slap landed hard on Lily's face, but she stood tall, unwavering. Seeing the leader in pain, she suddenly delivered a powerful kick to his chest, sending him staggering backward and crashing to the ground. In her previous life, she had never practiced martial arts, but her passion for sports and yoga had given her a strong physique. The unexpected kick forced the leader to retreat, leaning against a nearby wall to steady himself. "Ah, you little brat. If I don't teach you a lesson today, you'll never know your place. You lot, hold her arms and legs down for me," he bellowed, fury blazing in his eyes. Spitting on the ground, he ordered his men to subdue Lily. But even with her hands bound, her gaze remained resolute, unyielding. The men, hearing their leader's command, instinctively moved forward. Yet before they could even lay a hand on Lily, something unknown shot out from nowhere. Tiny projectiles struck not only their wrists, but also their shoulders, stopping them in their tracks. The sudden incident startled the group, causing them to stop abruptly and clutch their injuries. They bent down to look and discovered a few strange, smooth pebbles near their feet. Their panicked gazes immediately shifted to the leader, who was clutching his chest with one hand. "You'd better let me go, or things won't end well for you." The group's reaction left Lily surprised, unsure of who had come to her aid. However, seeing the fear and astonishment in their eyes, she maintained her composure. With a confident expression, she lifted her head high and spoke slowly. "Damn it, you, go outside and check." The leader glanced at the banknotes scattered at Lily's feet from her struggle. His eyes briefly lingered on the exposed part of her chest, revealing smooth, fair skin. The greed in his gaze grew even more evident. A tempting prey had fallen into his lap. How could he let it slip away? Despite his wariness, he gritted his teeth and gave a low-voiced order, signaling one of the men who had been struck on the wrist by the pebble to investigate. "Boss, I've checked. There's no one around, not even on the rooftops. Maybe it was just someone passing by. Boss, we should." The man made a round and returned to report to the leader. Clearly, he wanted both the girl and the money. "Damn it, just some passerby. If that's the case, this girl is mine today, no question about it. Not just her, but even her money. I'll keep it all for myself. You guys, stand guard outside. Once I've had my fun, you can have a turn." Hearing this, the previously cautious expression of the leader immediately changed. He became arrogant, rudely cursing and ordering the others to leave. Then he sneered, spreading his arms wide as he lunged toward Lily, who was tied up with her hands behind her back, sitting helplessly on the ground. Though she tried to kick him, she couldn't stop him. "You all." His cold, piercing gaze and suggestive tone sent shivers through Lily, making her inwardly despair. The others, seeing their boss step forward, smirked maliciously before quickly leaving. However, just as the leader got close to Lily and his hand was about to touch her, a shadow suddenly descended from above. Thud, in the blink of an eye, his entire body stiffened as the newcomer grabbed him, yanked him away from Lily, and hurled him aside as if he were nothing more than a lifeless object. "Boss, are you?" The lackeys had just reached the door when they heard their boss's sudden groan of pain. They turned around, initially thinking he had slipped while trying to do something to the girl. But the heavy sound of something hitting the ground startled them, putting them on high alert. When their eyes landed on the dark figure standing next to the girl on the ground, they exchanged glances before rushing forward, pulling daggers from their sleeves and simultaneously striking at the figure. Yet, the shadow moved like lightning, darting past them, leaving behind only the heavy thud of bodies collapsing onto the ground. "Miss, are you all right?" The darkness in front of her gradually faded as the light from the lanterns illuminated the room. Lily was helped to her feet by a man whose deep, familiar, and warm voice resonated by her ear, filling her with a sense of relief. Chapter 15. "Are you all right? Is it you?" The man's concerned gaze instinctively made Lily respond. As the ropes binding her hands were untied, she turned around and realized that the person in front of her was the same man she had met at the Golden Barrel Tavern. Astonished, she asked, her voice unable to hide her surprise. "You said you're Liam Sterling's fiancé. How could I not step in to help? Besides, I'm also your companion, am I not?" Faced with Lily's astonishment, the man slightly curled his lips into a faint but mesmerizing smile, making his already handsome face even more striking. He calmly explained, his profound gaze seemingly probing her. "Ha ha, that's right. Anyway, thank you, sir, for stepping in to help. As for these people, may I handle them myself?" The man's words made Lily frown slightly. She wanted to ask if he was Liam Sterling, but since he didn't clarify, she refrained from pressing further. Her eyes shifted to the group of thugs, who had been subdued by the man's subordinates dressed in blue. Remembering the humiliation she had suffered, her vengeful nature flared up. She stepped forward, her bright eyes blazing with anger as she coldly addressed the trembling group at her feet, who dared not move. "Of course. Ethan Walker, leave these people to the lady. That being said, I must be on my way and cannot linger any longer. Don't forget our appointment tomorrow morning. Let's go!" The man spoke calmly, his phoenix-like eyes narrowing slightly, as his deep gaze swept over Lily one last time. Hearing Owen Sterling's urging voice from outside, he turned and left, not forgetting to remind her before departing. By the time Lily snapped out of it, his figure had already disappeared beyond the door. The light in the room gradually dimmed. She walked to the door, only to catch a glimpse of him seated in a sedan chair. The men carrying the chair moved with extraordinary agility. Watching them, she saw them leap onto the adjacent rooftop and vanish into the night. "Who exactly is this man? Acting all mysterious and authoritative, even more so than Easton undefeated. Whatever, it's not like I'll have anything to do with him after this one deal. Now, as for you scoundrels, daring to target me and even attempting to humiliate me, if I don't teach you all a lesson today, then I'm not Lily Evans." Humph. Seeing the four-cornered palanquin adorned with lanterns carried by the group of men in black gradually disappear from sight, Lily couldn't help but withdraw her gaze, softly murmuring to herself. She truly couldn't understand why she kept getting entangled with such peculiar people. Thinking about the appointment between her and that man, Lily gently reassured herself. As she approached a few thugs who seemed to have been immobilized and couldn't move, she spoke while giving each of them a light kick. Then, her mischievous eyes scanned her surroundings and happened to spot a rope tied to a bundle of firewood nearby. An idea quickly sparked in her mind. Meanwhile, the man sitting inside the palanquin, accompanied by a cool breeze and white feathers, was swiftly brought to a serene location within a luxuriously decorated courtyard. The palanquin was gently set down in the middle of the yard. "Master, you have arrived. Your residence has already been prepared by the prince, just awaiting your presence. I will immediately go and inform the prince." As the palanquin stopped, the elegant man stepped out. From the main hall of the courtyard, an elderly man dressed in brocade, exuding an air of authority, quickly approached. He respectfully bowed, his polite voice resounding. "I am not fond of troubling others. If Caleb wishes to host me, then there's no need for further formalities. It is already late. You may return to rest. I have my attendants to take care of me," the man said casually as he walked inside, accompanied by two subordinates dressed in blue and white, along with the palanquin. Understood, I take my leave. As long as the master agrees to stay, that is all that matters. With your presence, the prince is certain to gain greater favor in the eyes of the emperor." The steward obediently replied, his demeanor calm and respectful, murmuring a few words softly before turning to depart. "Owen Sterling, think about it. I rejected the two princes highly favored by His Majesty, Prince Yun and Prince Tu, yet I specifically came to the Crestwood estate, someone who is not valued by the Emperor. What do you think His Majesty will make of this?" Although the butler's voice was very soft, the man heard it clearly. He stepped inside with a composed demeanor, gesturing for the others to leave, keeping only two subordinates, one in green and one in white. Then he turned to ask Owen Sterling, who stood beside him. Chapter 16. The Man with an Unpredictable Identity, Part 2. The Sovereign's Intentions. Owen Sterling truly cannot comprehend. Could it be that the sovereign intends to intervene in the political affairs of the Thorn Kingdom? Owen Sterling furrowed his brow, pondering for a moment, his tone tinged with doubt. He opened the folding fan in his hand, gently fanning twice, his gaze filled with contemplation, as he tried to decipher the mind of this enigmatic master. "If I truly intended to meddle in the political affairs of the Thorn Kingdom, what would you do?" The man chuckled faintly, his deep eyes locking onto Owen Sterling. His calm voice carried an invisible pressure that made those who heard it instinctively tense. "I honestly do not know. But the Thorn Kingdom is the homeland of Ethan Walker and myself. I only hope the sovereign can understand this sentiment." Caught off guard by the question, Owen Sterling hesitated, furrowing his brow in thought for a long while before sincerely looking at the man, his words imbued with earnestness. What Owen Sterling said caused Ethan Walker, standing nearby, to momentarily reveal a hint of concern in his otherwise cold expression as he glanced toward their master. "Since when did you think I enjoyed meddling in tedious political affairs? Life is much more carefree without holding office. I never trouble myself with such matters. The Thorn Kingdom, the Evans Kingdom, or the Red Lotus Nation, if I speak, who would dare not show respect? Even if the armies of several nations were to wage war, my tens of thousands of subordinates could easily confront them. With what I possess, why would I care about a small kingdom like the Thorn Kingdom? I simply wish to enjoy a peaceful life and do what I please. That is the true essence of living, is it not? As for Caleb, he is the son of the most esteemed imperial consort of the Thorn Kingdom. Yet, due to issues on his maternal uncle's side, he has been coldly treated by the monarch. However, he is a talented ruler with exceptional capabilities. I merely lent him a helping hand, going with the flow, as a way to repay a favor to the Thorn Kingdom's monarch." The man let out a soft sigh, his tone a mix of resignation and sincerity, as he spoke to his two subordinates. After finishing his words, he yawned, leaned back into the soft chair behind him, closed his eyes, and said no more. His reaction made Owen Sterling and Ethan Walker exchange glances. Neither of them left, nor dared to speak. "Oh, right, Ethan Walker, how's the investigation on that girl going? The one who hired me. I want to see how she handles those who bully her." Suddenly, the man opened his eyes, his gaze carrying a hint of curiosity and depth. The corners of his lips curled into a faint smile before he stood up elegantly and slowly walked into the bedroom inside. A gentle breeze swept through, and not long after, a shadow darted out of the courtyard. The figure moved as swiftly as lightning, so much so that the patrolling guards nearby only sensed a vague motion. When they looked up, all they saw was the stillness of the night, leaving no trace behind. "How did it go?" Within the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, the man, half asleep on the bed behind the silk curtains, heard the soft sound of footsteps outside the door. He slightly opened his eyes, remaining still, and asked in a deep voice, "Master, the young lady has dealt with those people." Standing by the door, the shadow respectfully responded to the question. "Ha ha, truly a unique mind. No wonder she's the kind of woman who makes me see things differently. All right, it's been a busy night. You all can retire and rest now. Young lady, I hope you'll bring me something fresh tomorrow." The man's lips curled into a light smile as he chuckled softly. After signaling for everyone to leave, he pulled out 2 banknotes from his sleeve, the deposit Lily had given him, his eyes reflecting a trace of contemplation. Silently, he closed his eyes again, sinking into the quiet. "He's finally done with this. You scoundrels, daring to bully me, you'll pay the price. If not, wouldn't other girls end up being tormented to death by you?" Luna Young Daisy Blackwood drag these men to the middle of the street and throw them there. No, wait, hang signs on their backs and leave them in the busiest part of town. I want the entire town to see their true faces. On the other side, the ruffians had been stripped of their clothes, but the ropes tying them up were secured discreetly at critical points, akin to blurred images in the modern world. They were bound tightly together, forming a pitiful heap. Looking at the gagged men, unable to move, exposed to the chilly autumn air without a shred of clothing, their bodies covered in writings that added to their humiliation, Lily clapped her hands in satisfaction. She gave instructions to the sisters, Luna Young and Daisy Blackwood. Watching the 2 girls herd the men like ducks, she chuckled softly, then turned back to the Golden Barrel Tavern to find a room for rest. Chapter 17. The punishment of the ruffians. Early the next morning, Lily was awakened by the commotion rising from below the Golden Barrel Tavern. "You lot, who on earth caused Maltam and his gang to end up like this?" Lily yawned, sitting up to glance at Luna Young and Daisy Blackwood, who were still sound asleep. After tidying herself briefly, she descended to the Golden Barrel Tavern and ordered a few light dishes. Gracefully enjoying her meal, she listened to the chatter around her. "Who knows? Those guys usually act like they rule the world, always arrogant and overbearing. Now that they've been put in their place, they totally deserve it. Exactly, serves them right. But did you notice the words written all over their bodies? Clearly saying things like, 'I should not loot,' and even, 'I shouldn't harbor ill intentions or harass respectable women.' If I'm not mistaken, they must have offended some noble lady from the capital. But the method used, oh my, their prized possessions were tied so tightly they were nearly about to burst, not to mention everything down there was shaved clean, making them look like plucked chickens." The gossip centered on the ruffians, who had been displayed with signs at the town gate that morning. "My lady," Luna Young and Daisy Blackwood, recalling their actions from the previous night, exchanged a knowing smile with Lily. "They deserved it, didn't they? Looting is already wrong, and they didn't even spare women. More importantly, they dared to target you too. Come, sit and eat. Once we're done, the young master should be arriving soon. After I guide him to finish the task, your mission will be complete." The gaze between the 2 made Lily recall last night's scene. Those men had been stripped of their clothes, their bodies covered in large scribbled words. Most notably, their private parts had been tightly bound with ropes to the point of near ruin, and even their body hair had been completely shaved off. After this incident, those scumbags would surely not dare to bully women again. Perhaps they wouldn't even have the courage to show their faces in public. This was undoubtedly a lesson they would never forget. Thinking about how she was woken up this morning by their screams and curses, Lily imagined those pitiful men in their miserable state, being pelted with objects and chased off by passing women. The thought made her chuckle, feeling a sense of satisfaction. She turned to the 2 people beside her and invited them to sit and eat. After finishing breakfast, Lily accompanied them to the 2nd floor, where there was a private room. As soon as they arrived, she spotted the man who had appeared the previous day. His white silk attire accentuated his extraordinary charisma. Walking beside him were two subordinates, one dressed in green, the other in white. "You're punctual, sir. In that case, please follow me." As the man approached, she smiled faintly. Lily showed no hesitation as she naturally stepped forward, meeting his gaze directly without paying any heed to the cold, wary stares of the two subordinates beside him. Gently placing her hand on the man's elbow, she offered a soft smile and spoke. "Master." Ethan Walker and Owen Sterling, the two loyal subordinates, couldn't help but feel displeased. Their master had barely entered when Lily pulled him away. Moreover, her demeanor was far too casual, almost as if she were commanding him, which irritated them enough to want to speak up. Young lady, where are you dragging me so early in the morning? I haven't even had breakfast yet." The man slightly furrowed his brows, signaling his two subordinates to remain silent. Although dissatisfied, Ethan Walker and Owen Sterling bowed respectfully without uttering another word. Seeing this, he smiled faintly, following Lily while gently reminding her. "I know I might be a bit hasty, but as long as you come with me, I promise you'll enjoy a truly delicious meal. If not, I'll personally cook for you and guarantee your satisfaction. These snacks were specially ordered for you to have beforehand. All right, let's give it a try. If we don't hurry, things might get delayed. If there's anything inappropriate, I hope you'll forgive me." Hearing this, Lily couldn't help but feel anxious. Thinking about how she had asked Luna Young to investigate the news, her urgency only grew. Peter Parker had already ridden off to escort the governor's daughter to the villa, leaving little time. Though she knew the man before her was no ordinary person, she still felt apologetic as she looked at him and replied, "All right then, but don't forget what you promised me. After this is done, not only do you have to pay me the remaining half of the deposit, but you also owe me a proper meal. Oh, and since you mentioned wanting to be my companion, isn't it time you clarified your purpose? What exactly do you need me to cooperate on? Just be straightforward." The man glanced at the pastry in his hand, feeling that this was indeed a challenge for someone as picky as him. Rarely did he sigh in helplessness. As he followed her, he spoke while observing her nod and pulling him along. He couldn't help but grow curious about the tasks she was about to request. Chapter 18. Interrupting the Wedding Ceremony. "All right, then I'll tell you. I'm actually a village girl from the Parker family village near this town. Since childhood, I've been betrothed to a man. But now, he's about to marry the daughter of Governor Mr. Campbell, the young lady of this town. Though he and I once shared a relationship, even if he won't admit it, he's getting married. How could I not attend to offer my congratulations?" The man questioned her, pondering the reason behind the demise of this body. Lily sighed helplessly, explaining to him. As she spoke, she noticed his brows furrowing even tighter at her words. Her gaze flickered with a calm yet meaningful expression as she spoke to him. "Someone as magnanimous as you is truly rare, but are you really just planning to simply give him a wedding gift?" Lily's words made the man look at her. Though her delicate face was lovely, the calm demeanor paired with her confident smile made her features shine even brighter. Raising an eyebrow slightly, he spoke indifferently. After he finished, Lily merely smiled faintly, her gaze flashing with a rare, cold glint as she teasingly retorted, "Why not? Let's go." When someone touched her innermost thoughts, Lily merely gave a faint smile without saying anything. Speaking calmly, she addressed the man, then took his hand and led him forward. "Young lady, women need to be a bit obedient to win a man's affection. I've always preferred holding someone else's hand rather than letting them hold mine. Let's go. Since I've agreed to your request, I will definitely let you act freely at their wedding." Her calm demeanor and indifference caused the man's eyes to flicker with intrigue. Looking at the small hand clasping his gaze deepened. Gently, he turned his hand over and naturally took hers in his grasp. Seeing Lily's helpless smile, she subtly tried to pull away, but eventually allowed him to hold her hand obediently. She then smiled softly as they moved forward together. To attend the wedding of Peter Parker and the magistrate's daughter, Lily made a brief stop at a cosmetics shop along the way. She carefully selected a few liquid foundations and lipsticks, then quickly applied a simple makeover in front of the man. In no time, Lily had completely transformed herself. Not only did her makeup highlight her delicate and adorable features, but it also gave her an indescribable air of elegance. Despite her petite and charming figure, she exuded a presence that drew everyone's attention, like a beautiful doll. She wore a pink outfit paired with an outer garment of brocade. Standing next to the tall, imposing man with extraordinary charisma, the two looked like a celestial couple, radiating sophistication. Accompanied by their two attendants, Luna Young and Daisy Blackwood, they continued forward. At Peter Parker's villa in the town, the venue was lavishly decorated. The atmosphere was lively, filled with cheerful chatter. With the help of colleagues and some guests, Magistrate David Campbell beamed with a radiant smile. His eyes brimmed with anticipation as he watched the bride and groom, dressed in crimson wedding attire, slowly walk across the red silk-covered ground. The bride and groom, the wedding ceremony begins. First bow to heaven and earth. Dressed in a red wedding robe, Peter Parker, with his handsome face, held tightly to one end of the red silk. His eyes sparkled with joy as he looked at the bride, veiled in red, being guided by the matchmaker. At the command of the officiant, the bride and groom firmly gripped the two ends of the red silk and walked into the grand hall with dignified steps. After paying respects to the magistrate couple, David Campbell and his wife, seated at the center of the hall, they continued to bow to heaven and earth. It seemed Peter Parker had passed the imperial examination, and for the sake of fame, he didn't even bow with his biological mother, clearly becoming a son-in-law living under the magistrate's roof. Second bow to the parents. After bowing to heaven and earth, the bride and groom proceeded to pay respects to David Campbell and his wife. Husband and wife bowed to each other. As soon as the officiant finished speaking, the bride and groom turned to face each other. But before they could bow, a clear voice of a young woman rang out from the entrance. "Wait! Peter Parker, today is your grand wedding day. If I hadn't come, what right would you have to marry the magistrate's daughter?" At the sound of her voice, the atmosphere in the hall instantly turned silent. All eyes shifted toward the entrance, where a group of people had just entered. Leading them was a strikingly handsome man and a stunning woman. The man, tall and imposing, wore a luxurious robe, exuding an air of nobility between his brows. Though he said nothing, his deep, cold gaze swept across the crowd, making everyone feel his overwhelming arrogance and superiority. This man was the one Lily had invited to accompany her. His presence immediately captured the attention of all the women at the wedding. Not only the unmarried ladies, but even the magistrate's wife couldn't help but steal a few extra glances. Beside him, Lily wore a pink dress. Her delicate features, neatly styled hair, and a simple hairpin radiated elegance and a cool demeanor. She was none other than Lily. Lily glanced at Peter Parker in his red wedding attire. Though she had long known he couldn't compare to the man beside her, watching him about to bow to another woman still stirred a pang of sorrow within her. Realizing this was merely a lingering emotion from this body's previous owner, she swept her gaze across the hall. Apart from those affiliated with the magistrate, there was no sign of anyone from the Parker family village or Peter's blind mother. This only deepened Lily's disdain. Allowing the man holding her hand to lead her in, she stopped not far from the bride and groom. Her cold eyes fixed on Peter Parker as she asked icily. Chapter 19. Chaos at the Wedding Aisle 1. "You, who are you?" Suddenly, a group of people appeared, causing Peter Parker to instinctively look in their direction. It was a young woman dressed in a pale pink silk gown. She was stunningly beautiful, resembling an intricately carved jade doll, captivating everyone around her. Though her makeup was light, it only served to enhance her elegance and allure. Her delicate eyebrows, large, clear eyes like pristine water, and especially the dimples that flickered at the corners of her smile, all of it made it impossible to look away. From the moment she arrived, she became the center of attention, drawing every gaze in the room. The features of her face seemed somewhat familiar, but Peter Parker couldn't immediately recall who she was. Beside her stood a man holding her petite hand. His demeanor was extraordinary, exuding an air of cold detachment. Even without uttering a word, a mere glance from him commanded attention. Such a striking couple left Peter Parker genuinely perplexed. Not only him, but even the guests present, including the magistrate David Campbell, were equally bewildered by the situation. There was an indistinct sense that these two individuals were far from ordinary, yet none among the crowd seemed to recognize them. All eyes eventually turned toward Peter Parker.
"You truly have a forgetful nature. But then again, it's to be expected. Someone like you, who rose from being a poor boy to mingling with the elite, even going so far as to disdain your own mother, how could you possibly remember who I am? But this, surely you haven't forgotten?"
The shock and confusion on Peter Parker's face were unmistakable. His eyes reflected surprise as he looked at her, and after hearing her words, his gaze grew contemplative, briefly flicking toward the bride still veiled in red beside him. Lily smiled faintly, her voice soft yet layered with meaning. She reached into her gown, pulled out an item, and placed it in her palm, extending it toward him. It was an ordinary sachet, but embroidered on it were two words. One read,
"Peter,"
the other,
"Lily."
This was the gift Peter Parker had purchased for Lily before leaving, and she had embroidered their names onto it. At the time, he had been so moved that he held her tightly, unable to speak for a long while. Of course, the deeper significance of this item was something only the two of them fully understood.
"I am Lily."
Seeing this object, Peter Parker was momentarily stunned in astonishment. If it weren't for her taking it out, he would have found it hard to believe that the person before him was Lily. But thinking about how she was supposed to be in the rural countryside, why was she here? Moreover, her attire, along with the man beside her, exuding an aura of nobility that made others hesitant to approach yet compelled them to admire, made Peter Parker tremble as he spoke, reaching out to take the scented sachet from her hand.
"This is the promise you made to me, the promise that after you passed the imperial exams, you would marry me. But now that you've passed the exams, you've broken your word and married someone else. I don't blame you. If there's anyone to blame, it's myself for being too naive back then to believe your words. But your mother, she has been longing for
you, missing you all these years, and yet, even for something as important as your wedding, you didn't let her attend. Is it just because she's an old blind woman living in the countryside? If you can treat your own mother like this, then I, Lily Evans, have no right to expect you to keep your promise to me. So, this thing, it holds no meaning for me anymore."
Peter Parker's hesitation and inner conflict made Lily smile faintly. For some reason, she could see regret in his eyes, but what did that matter? She was no longer the foolish girl who would risk her life for a scoundrel like him. With a faint smile, neither hurried nor slow, she spoke those words right in front of everyone. Her words caused murmurs to ripple through the crowd, while embarrassment and unease became evident on the faces of some. After speaking, she suddenly raised her hand and, right in front of Peter Parker, tore the scented sachet apart with force. The flower petals inside the sachet immediately scattered, fluttering down one by one in front of Peter Parker. Chapter 20. Chaos at the Wedding Aisle 2. Seeing this, Peter Parker's face immediately changed. Instinctively, he wanted to retrieve the sachet that Lily had torn apart, but when he saw the once intact sachet now in shreds, with petals scattering everywhere, his expression turned even darker.
You are the fiancé of Miss Campbell, the one who has already bowed to the elders and exchanged vows. Today is your grand wedding day, so how could I not come to give you a gift worthy of the affection we once shared? This is one gift, but there's another. I hope you'll like it. Could you read it for me, my lord?
Peter Parker's face showed clear embarrassment, mixed with regret and confusion. Lily sneered, her eyes full of scorn. As she spoke, she turned around, pulling a piece of paper from her sleeve, and handed it to the gentleman beside her, smiling sweetly at him.
Of course, my dear. You are my treasure. How could I not help you? This divorce letter surely must be something Scholar Parker needs. So let me read it aloud for everyone to hear. I, Lily Evans, and Peter Parker were both from the village of the Parker family, childhood sweethearts, who promised to spend our lives together. Therefore, when Peter Parker aimed to take the imperial exams, my mother and I devotedly cared for his blind mother, hoping for the day he would return. But unexpectedly, after 3 years of waiting, what I received was not the man I had longed for, but betrayal. The love we once shared had vanished, leaving only 50 taels of silver as compensation for my feelings and livelihood. Still, I, Lily Evans, do not hate him because loving someone means wishing for their happiness. However, the bond between us was decided by our families, and without the elders' agreement, your marriage to another holds no legitimacy. Thus, I have come today specifically to deliver this divorce letter to you. I, Lily Evans, just an ordinary woman from the countryside, cannot reach the heights of Scholar Peter Parker, so I choose not to bind your life any longer. From this moment on, there will be no ties between us.
The man beside her smiled faintly upon hearing Lily's words. His large hand tightened around her small one, his eyes filled with affection. He smiled gently, wrapping his long arm around her waist, taking the divorce letter from Lily's hand, and reading it aloud before everyone. After finishing, he looked at Peter Parker, whose face had gone from regretful and agitated to cold and distant. The man chuckled softly, extending the divorce letter toward Peter Parker.
Scholar Parker, take this. Accept this divorce letter, and from now on, there will be no connection between you and Lily. This way, I will have the chance to pursue her openly, and she will reciprocate my love with genuine feelings. Lily, now that you've severed ties with him, is there anything else you want me to do?
Ignoring Peter Parker's uneasy and regretful expression, the man paid no attention to Miss Campbell beside him, who was gripping the red silk ribbon tightly, her hands trembling. She eventually let go, stepping back with anger and disappointment. As he spoke, he held Lily's waist in front of everyone, turning to look at her with eyes full of love and intimacy. The man's actions left Lily stunned. Truthfully, she had intended to confront Peter Parker directly, then angrily hand him the divorce letter to make him understand that it was she who no longer needed him, not the other way around. But now, witnessing this unexpected turn of events, seeing Mr. Campbell so heartbroken that he pointed a trembling finger at Peter Parker, and then watching Miss Campbell step back, tear off her veil, lift her dress, and storm away, Lily couldn't help but feel disoriented. Peter Parker, meanwhile, was both tense and panicked, trying to salvage the situation but being dismissed by Mr. Campbell. A faint pang of reluctance rose in Lily's heart. She realized this must be the lingering emotions from this body. This situation was no different than ruining his wedding. She truly didn't know what to do next. Her actions quickly sparked murmurs and gossip from those around her. Some criticized her background, but upon seeing her current attire and the man beside her, many immediately assumed she had changed her heart, using this opportunity to humiliate Peter Parker. "Oh, I see. Darling, you're concerned about their gossip, aren't you? Leave everything to me. I think Lily's actions today will prompt much speculation, but there's one thing I want to clarify. I only got to know Lily after Peter Parker decided to marry Miss Campbell, and even sent Lily 50 silver coins. Her kindness, purity, and even naivety are what truly made me fall for her. If anyone wants to gossip, come to me directly. If you continue to fabricate stories behind our backs, don't blame me for being ruthless. That includes you, David Campbell. If anyone dares to whisper again, their fate will be the same as this table. And Peter Parker, you deceived a girl's feelings. Being treated like this is already lenient. If not for Lily's mercy, I would have ensured you lost everything.
Lily wanted to speak but remained silent, while the man beside her merely smirked indifferently, as if unconcerned about the commotion he had caused. He pulled Lily closer into his embrace, and spoke coldly in front of everyone. As he finished, his sharp gaze swept over each person present. With a flick of his long sleeve, the table in front of David Campbell shattered into pieces with a resounding crash. Amid the chaotic scene, the man remained composed, only turning to warn Peter Parker with a few words. Then, he held Lily in his arms and leisurely turned to leave, leaving behind shock and outrage.
You, Lily Evans! Even if Peter Parker is at fault, how dare you humiliate me, David Campbell, in front of everyone? If I don't teach you a lesson, how can I still be worthy of my position as magistrate? Guards, arrest these troublemakers at once!
Seeing his daughter crying miserably, Peter Parker could only bow his head in worry, his eyes filled with helplessness as he looked to the magistrate for help. Meanwhile, Lily Evans, a simple country girl, had the audacity to ruin the meticulously prepared wedding for his beloved daughter. Though Lily Evans now wore an elegant appearance in his eyes, how could a mere country girl associate with someone powerful? The man beside her might have some martial skills, but could the magistrate's residence be merely a hollow name? David Campbell, seething with rage, stepped forward, pointing directly at Lily and the man beside her, loudly ordering his household staff to immediately arrest the two of them. Chapter 21. Emergency situation. Under David Campbell's command, the servants immediately rushed forward, encircling Lily, the man beside her, and their companions in the center.
David Campbell, you exploit your power and influence for personal gain, coercing others to betray genuine feelings in order to marry your daughter. And now, when the truth is laid bare before you in a matter unrelated to you, you send people to act violently. What is this? A desperate outburst, or have you lost your senses?
Faced with the aggressive stares of the servants and David Campbell's cold, grim expression, Peter Parker, kneeling on the ground, pleading, could only lower his head, unable to meet anyone's gaze. This sudden turn of events plunged everything into chaos, intensifying the heavy atmosphere. A pang of regret rose in Lily's heart. In a moment of impulsiveness, she had forgotten her elders' teachings.
The common folk cannot contend with the powerful.
But as her eyes swept over the man beside her, a figure exuding an extraordinary aura, her panicked heart gradually steadied. However, before she could speak, the man had already stepped in. Owen Sterling, dressed in pristine white, casually fanned himself with a folding fan and calmly spoke.
David Campbell.
Owen Sterling's appearance left David Campbell momentarily stunned. There was something familiar about him, especially since this town was near the capital, a place frequented by individuals of significant standing. A flicker of unease appeared in David Campbell's eyes.
It seems you recognize me,
Owen Sterling said with a faint smirk.
Not surprising. Your discernment isn't entirely lacking. I wouldn't claim to be extraordinary, merely the son of the Minister of War. The man beside me is Ethan Walker, son of the Minister of Revenue. And accompanying us is our master. David Campbell, if you are angry or resentful, blame yourself for failing to see through a libertine who deceived your daughter's heart. Today, we are here to find Scholar Parker, a matter that has nothing to do with you.
David Campbell appeared to want to say something but hesitated, his gaze wavering. Owen Sterling raised an indifferent eyebrow. Taking a step forward, without hesitation, he pointed his folding fan directly at David Campbell's chest, his eyes gleaming with defiance.
Well, I must admit, this old man was blind. I am grateful to young Master Sterling and young Master Walker for enlightening me. Otherwise, my daughter might have fallen into the hands of a scoundrel. Peter Parker, do you admit your guilt? Seize this fraud immediately. He dared to conceal his engagement and deceive even the king, unforgivable.
When Owen Sterling revealed his identity, David Campbell was left speechless with shock. Two noble sons of the prestigious Grand Minister residence. How could he, a mere minor governor, have the standing to oppose them? More importantly, there was undoubtedly a powerful force backing them. Thinking of this, he could only reluctantly show submission. Even though he knew his daughter had fallen for Peter Parker at first sight, faced with this situation, David Campbell had no other choice. He cast a cold glance at Peter Parker and immediately ordered the guards to act. With a loud command, the situation changed instantly. Peter Parker panicked and begged for mercy, but in the blink of an eye, the servants twisted his arms behind his back and escorted him away.
Spare me, my lord. Please spare me. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have angered you. But I truly love the young lady. More importantly, Lily Evans and I share nothing but sibling-like affection. Lily, please tell them, why are you harming me? I know you've liked me since we were young, but I've only ever seen you as a sister, Lily.
Peter Parker never imagined his wedding would turn into such a nightmare. He vaguely realized that the man standing beside Lily was not someone ordinary. Though he didn't know the true identity of this man, Peter Parker could only turn to David Campbell, pleading desperately while struggling. However, seeing no response from him, Peter grew even more frantic, bitterly questioning Lily, who stood beside the man.
What more do you have to say? You were already engaged, yet you dared to deceive the Emperor by claiming you were unmarried. That alone is a crime of treason. Not to mention, despite having a family, you still sought to climb higher by proposing to my daughter, deceiving me in the process. You are a fraud. Take him away. I will personally escort him to the capital to confess his crimes before the Emperor.
Peter Parker's struggles and pleas made David Campbell reflect bitterly on how a seemingly promising union had descended into such chaos. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. His daughter could have married countless worthy men, but after Peter Parker passed the imperial exams, he came forward with a proposal. At the time, despite harboring some disdain, David Campbell reluctantly agreed, thinking of Peter's status as a newly appointed scholar, brimming with literary talent. Who could have predicted that a highly anticipated wedding would turn into such a farce? Not only had it made his daughter cry and run away, humiliating their family, but it had also caused him to offend people he should never have crossed. In his fury, David Campbell couldn't give Peter Parker any chance. He coldly berated him, ignoring his struggles and pleas. Overcome with rage, he stepped forward and slapped Peter Parker hard across the face. Thinking of the humiliation he had suffered and the chaos before him, his hatred deepened, and he immediately ordered his subordinates.
No. Father, I know I've been stubborn and caused you embarrassment, but Peter Parker and I truly share deep feelings for each other. More importantly, we've already bowed to heaven and earth. In life, I am his woman. In death, I am a ghost of the Evans family. Father, I beg you, please.
Just as the servants were dragging Peter Parker outside, a young woman in a red dress suddenly ran out from the hall, her veil already lifted. None other than the young lady of the Campbell family herself. Instinctively resisting, tears streamed down her face. Though her gaze toward Peter Parker was filled with resentment, she still knelt before her father, clutching his pant leg, sobbing and pleading. Chapter 22. Liam Sterling's Judgment.
My child."
The heartfelt plea of his daughter momentarily softened the despair in Peter Parker's eyes. In contrast, David Campbell could only feel helpless at his inability to discipline his child. He sighed softly, muttered a reproach, and turned away, unwilling to dwell on the matter further.
"Miss Evans, I understand that losing the man you love has filled your heart with resentment, leading you to disrupt this wedding. I do not blame you. If you wish to hate Peter Parker, then direct your hatred toward me. As long as you forgive Peter Parker, even if you wish for my death here and now, I am willing. Miss Evans, I beg you, if anything happens to Peter Parker, I will not be able to go on living."
Seeing her father in such a state, Miss Campbell realized it was futile to plead with him. With no other choice, she cast aside her pride, crawled forward, and knelt before Lily, desperately begging.
Could you spare him?"
Peter Parker's face was filled with anguish and tears, but his eyes glimmered with gratitude as he looked at Miss Campbell. Lily, who already harbored no fondness for Peter Parker, felt conflicted. Despite her hatred for this unfaithful man, seeing Miss Campbell's heartfelt plea softened her heart. After a moment of hesitation, Lily turned to look at the man beside her. His face remained calm, but his eyes showed a faint trace of amusement, as if he were watching a play. She asked in a low voice,
"It seems you truly love him. Even for a man as unfaithful as this, you still have feelings for him?"
Lily's words slightly surprised the man beside her. When they had returned to Caleb's estate, he had ordered an investigation into her. She had risked everything, disregarding danger, to rush to this small town. Though he did not know how she managed to gather several thousand silvers from 50 in just one day, her efforts to sabotage the wedding, only to now show leniency toward the unfaithful man, puzzled him. With a faint smirk, he spoke in a detached tone.
I no longer have any feelings for him. It's just that, as women, why make things harder for one another? Let them proceed with the wedding, and let today's events be forgotten."
Lily paused for a moment, her gaze filled with compassion as she looked at Miss Campbell, who was kneeling before her, bowing her head in desperate pleas. She took a deep breath before turning to the man beside her, her voice tinged with a hint of helplessness and melancholy.
"If only everyone in this world had a heart like hers, it would be so much better. Alas! Never mind, it's not my place to say more. You decide for yourself."
Faced with Lily's earnest plea, the man could only sigh in resignation. After speaking, he turned away, placing his hands behind his back, shaking his head in regret, and leaving the decision to her.
"Very well, Miss Campbell, you may stand up. Sir Campbell, I understand that circumstances forced your hand when you acted against Peter Parker upon our arrival. In truth, it was all a misunderstanding, a momentary lapse of judgment on my part. Now then, Lord Sterling, what is your opinion?"
Though anger still simmered in her heart from the disrupted wedding, Lily could only sigh when confronted with this scene. She bent down to help Miss Campbell to her feet. Seeing the tears welling in Miss Campbell's eyes, full of pleading, Lily offered a regretful smile before turning to address David Campbell. Then, she turned her attention to the man beside her. As for this man, Lily only now realized she didn't even know his name. However, she had heard rumors that his status was anything but ordinary, and she guessed he might be Liam Sterling.
"Lord Sterling?"
The man, hearing her address him as such, merely waved his hand slightly, indifferent to the relieved and grateful expression of Mr. Campbell. At the same time, he gestured to his subordinates to release Peter Parker, then raised an eyebrow, looking at her with a hint of surprise.
"You think I am Lord Liam Sterling?"
His question left Lily momentarily speechless. Her reaction neither confirmed nor denied his identity. He simply raised an eyebrow, responding with an indifferent tone.
"Looking at the entirety of the Thorn Kingdom, from the noble royal family to the humble commoners, someone who could make the young masters of the two prestigious Grand Minister residences follow them must undoubtedly have an extraordinary identity. If one were to say you are a prince, that doesn't seem to fit. It's said that the current emperor is just over 20 years old and has no siblings. If one were to claim you are a senior relative of the emperor, you appear too young. Therefore, I am certain you do not belong to the royal family. In this realm, only young Master Sterling not only possesses a unique status, but also controls nearly half of the business dealings of the Golden Barrel Tavern and tea houses across the Thorn Kingdom. Thus, the man softly inquired, and Lily furrowed her brows. Though she didn't fully grasp the meaning, she instinctively explained, her eyes filled with anticipation as she looked toward him. Young lady, you indeed have remarkable insight. Mr. Campbell, since Miss Lily has chosen not to pursue the matter regarding Peter Parker, deeming it merely a misunderstanding, then Liam and the two brothers, Sterling and Walker, will not impose further. Farewell. Please continue with the wedding. Let us go, brothers. When Lily mistook him for Liam Sterling, the man merely gave a faint smile, neither denying nor clarifying. After speaking, he turned to David Campbell, who was still at a loss for what to do, and spoke again. Then, he gently placed a hand on Lily's slender shoulder, pulled her into his embrace, lightly patted Owen Sterling's shoulder, and turned to leave. Just as they were about to depart, Peter Parker, who had just been released, suddenly called out loudly, "Sister, please wait!" Chapter 23. The True Face of Peter Parker. Peter Parker, even though I won't hold you accountable for marrying Miss Campbell, I, Lily Evans, have never encountered a neighbor as indifferent as you. From now on you go your way, and I'll go mine. Our ties are severed. But the debt you owe me, remember it well. Sir Sterling, let us leave. Facing Peter Parker's attempt to block her path, Lily met his gloomy and anxious gaze. She paused briefly, her eyes cold as she looked at him, then gently pulled the arm of the man beside her and spoke softly. Lily, I know I was wrong. But we've grown up together since childhood. Can't you forgive me just this once? Lily's resolute demeanor left Peter Parker visibly panicked. He quickly stepped forward, blocking their way, trying to display a sense of sibling-like affection, as if to salvage the remnants of their bond. Forgive you? Forgive you for cutting ties with me after entering the palace, sending someone to end everything between us with 50 taels of silver? Peter Parker, even if I don't pursue this matter, it doesn't mean I'll forgive you. You didn't want to see me before, but now, in front of Miss Campbell and others, you're clinging to our childhood bond. Why? Is it because you see that I'm now acquainted with Sir Sterling and want to curry favor to climb higher? Lily's sharp questioning left Peter Parker's face flushed red as he lowered his head in gloom. Lily, I know I've been truly foolish in the past, but I sincerely care about you. I don't even know how you came to know Sir Sterling, but with his status, the person he chooses to marry must undoubtedly have a distinguished background. Considering your status, no matter how deep your feelings are for each other, between family expectations and elders, the two of you. Lily's indifferent gaze was as sharp as a blade, causing a flicker of resentment to cross Peter Parker's face. Truthfully, if he didn't know her true identity, merely seeing her in that radiant attire, he couldn't deny how stunning she looked. Men, perhaps by nature, are weak and despicable beings. When they were together, he didn't cherish her. Now, seeing Lily exuding confidence and receiving the tender care of the man beside her, he couldn't help but be astonished. Though he didn't know what she had endured or how she met this man, her transformation truly left him in awe. Thinking about the woman who once belonged to him now standing by someone else's side, a man so extraordinary that it made him envious, Peter Parker was overwhelmed with bitterness and regret. When Lily responded coldly, her gaze carried a hint of pain, but remained resolute. Peter Parker looked at her with a complex emotion he himself couldn't describe.
Peter Parker's change only made Lily sneer inwardly. Truly a man who only knew how to take advantage. But she was no longer the naive, easily hurt girl she once was. She smiled, her eyes reflecting a trace of disdain, then turned toward Miss Campbell beside him with a look that was both sorrowful and icy, her pride rising unyieldingly within her.
Peter Parker, thank you for your kind intentions. But there's nothing left between us anymore. The person you should care about now is Miss Campbell, not me. As for who I choose to be with, that's my personal matter and has nothing to do with you. Let's go.
Lily's decisive words left Peter Parker flustered. He felt a surge of regret welling up inside, but even in front of Miss Campbell, he couldn't suppress it. Lily, with her cold gaze, turned and walked away, signaling Luna Young, Daisy Blackwood, and the others to leave with her.
Wait!
Peter Parker tried to stop her, but seeing the noble figure of the man beside Lily, he could only feel helpless. Even though he knew he shouldn't say more, he couldn't hold back and spoke again.
Mr. Parker, Lily has made herself clear. Everyone here can bear witness. Now, Lily has nothing to do with you anymore. As for who she chooses to be with, that's her business. My feelings for her are genuine, and I will certainly marry her, protect her, and never let her suffer any harm. Lily, will you agree?
The man's cold gaze pierced through Peter Parker, his sharp eyes making him hesitate. As he spoke, he pulled Lily closer to him, looking at her with deep affection. Lily, slightly annoyed, maintained her composure and returned his gaze with gentle eyes.
That's right, Peter Parker. The bond between me and Lord Sterling cannot be broken by anyone. As for you, you are no longer significant to me. If not for you, I wouldn't have made the decision to marry him so easily. So give up. Miss Campbell, a man like this, who only knows how to exploit and forget promises. I don't want to make things difficult for you, but you should think
carefully about your future. Let's go, Liam.
Lily's words momentarily surprised the man beside her, but he maintained a faint smile. She matched his steps, her gaze filled with trust and determination. Gently removing his hand, she took the initiative to hold his hand, and together they walked away, leaving behind a disappointed Peter Parker with a silent, uncomfortable expression.
This girl, how can she speak so bluntly? Truly, Mr. Campbell, you've seen it yourself. With someone like that, you should carefully consider your daughter's future. As for me, I won't interfere with your family's marriage matters any further. We're leaving now.
The man smiled gently, his eyes unknowingly filled with affection. In front of Peter Parker and everyone else, he casually pinched Lily's small, delicate nose, shaking his head in mild exasperation before turning to hold her hand and leading her out.
Peter Parker, I never thought you'd be like this. You've disappointed me greatly. This daughter of mine, everything is over, let it all end. This wedding is finished, it's over.
The departure of the man and Lily left David Campbell unable to suppress the fury in his heart. Before Owen Sterling and Ethan Walker, who had yet to leave, he angrily declared, then forcefully pulled his daughter away from Peter Parker, his face full of rage. And just like that, the wedding fell apart. Naturally, Peter Parker became the target of David Campbell's disdain, even outright rejection.
Lily.
Watching David Campbell lead his daughter away, the others shook their heads, murmuring amongst themselves before gradually departing. Faced with an irreparable outcome, Peter Parker was overcome with fear, his face pale. Instinctively, he hurried after them.
Scholar Parker, please restrain yourself. My master and Miss Evans have already spoken. If you insist on approaching, you'll have to contend with the weapons in our hands first.
Owen Sterling and Ethan Walker, seeing his persistence, sneered coldly. Both men stepped forward, one wielding a long sword and the other a folding fan, blocking Peter Parker from both sides. Seeing him stunned, they issued a chilling warning before withdrawing their weapons and leaving.
Thank you for stepping in to help me. Here's the remaining money. You can go now. I never thought the man I, Lily Evans, had cherished for over 10 years would turn out to be someone like this. Sob.
Lily and the man walked away from the estate where Peter Parker's wedding had taken place. Her lips trembled as she tried to suppress the tears welling up in her eyes. Though her heart no longer wavered much, she couldn't stop the bitterness from creeping in. It was the despair and resentment of being deceived, of seeing the faith she once held crumble entirely. She understood that these were the emotions of this body. Reluctantly, she fought back her tears, leading the man quickly away. Finally, when they reached the end of the main street and entered a small alley, she stopped. Almost immediately, she flung his hand away. Her trembling hands pulled out the last of her money from her chest and handed it to him. After speaking, she could no longer hold back. Leaning against the wall beside her, her body slowly slid down. Covering her mouth with one hand, she broke into uncontrollable sobs. Chapter 24. A Kiss Demands Gratitude.
If you want to cry, just cry. My shoulder is here for you to borrow.
The man hadn't expected her to become so emotional the moment she stepped out. A flicker of helplessness flashed in his eyes. Thinking of how she had been abandoned, then resolved to ruin the wedding of the one who betrayed her, her calm and proud demeanor during the ceremony, now reduced to tears like this, his heart involuntarily grew heavy. Watching her cry, the tenderness within him unexpectedly cracked. He furrowed his brows, slowly helping her up from the ground near the wall. Stretching out his long arms, he pulled her into his embrace, his large hand gently patting her shoulder as though to soothe the pain inside her.
I'm sorry, I've been improper. It's just that my emotions are unstable. Crying actually made me feel a lot better. But I've soaked your robe. Maybe I should compensate you with 100 taels to make up for your clothes.
The man's comforting words gradually brought Lily, who had been dazed, back to her senses. Realizing she had foolishly cried over the experiences of the original body she now inhabited, Lily quickly adjusted her emotions. She raised her hand to wipe the tears from her face, took a step back, and looked apologetically at the now-soaked brocade robe on the man's shoulder. As she spoke, she reached into her pocket to find money.
Enough. You're already like this. Why are you still thinking about giving me money? Besides, do you think I care about money? It's just a pity for this robe. I spent over 1,000 taels commissioning it.
Lily's reaction, her
reluctance to owe anyone a favor, stirred an inexplicable sense of discomfort in the man's chest, mingling with disappointment and irritation he couldn't quite comprehend. He gently took hold of her hand, which was fumbling for money, and spoke in a calm tone. As he spoke, he glanced at the expensive robe he was wearing, its shoulder now stained and damp from her tears.
But I really don't want to owe anyone anything. Then tell me your name. When I have the money, I'll make a robe exactly like this to repay you. As for this one,
the man's composure only solidified Lily's belief that he was no ordinary person. Though he didn't care about the money, considering his special aura and the 2 attendants flanking him, she instinctively understood that he must be someone of great status. Someone like him, either a nobleman or a prince, was certainly not the kind of person she wanted to get involved with. Her memories of modern dramas about palace intrigues and family feuds had instilled in her a deep-seated fear of the struggles within powerful households. Thus, no matter how noble, exceptional, or handsome this man might be, her natural aversion to such conflicts made her want to keep her distance. Even though the man didn't demand compensation, Lily still felt guilty as she looked at him, thinking about how she had soaked his robe with her tears and even her sniffles. She stepped forward, ignoring the man's startled expression and the astonished gazes of the 2 attendants in green and white behind him. she resolutely decided to remove the man's robe.
Young lady, do you know what you're doing? The master's attire isn't something just anyone can touch. Have you considered the consequences of your actions?
Walker and Sterling stood nearby, watching as she stepped forward to pull at the master's garment. Instinctively, they wanted to intervene, but the young lord's cold gaze kept them rooted in place. He made no move to stop her actions. Observing her determination as she tugged at his robe and held it in the crook of her arm, despite her slight confusion over his intentions, his sharp, phoenix-like eyes narrowed slightly. His large hand extended, effortlessly catching her wrist and pulling her forward. His long arm lifted her chin, his gaze filled with intrigue as he looked at her. A faint smirk appeared on his lips, and his deep, low voice resonated.
I just wanted to help you wash this garment because if I had to pay for it, I really wouldn't have enough money.
His deep, penetrating eyes made Lily's heart race uncontrollably. Realizing she had just boldly undressed an ancient man, she caught sight of his white inner garment and immediately lowered her head, mumbling shyly, so embarrassed she wished she could vanish into thin air.
Really? I thought you might have fallen for me at first sight.
He chuckled lightly, his tone teasing yet laced with authority.
Young lady, in the future, don't casually undress a man. Not everyone is as forgiving as I am. As for this garment, if you like it, you can keep it, but remember, you owe me a favor. Engrave my name in your memory, Caleb Thorne. And consider this kiss as the price for your impropriety.
As he finished speaking, he suddenly released her hand. His handsome face leaned in close, planting a light kiss on her cheek. The gesture left Lily stunned, her heart seemingly frozen. He spoke nonchalantly before turning and walking away, leaving her standing there, flustered, embarrassed, and unsure of what to do. Chapter 25. Encountering a Villain.
You? Caleb Thorne, turns out I really mistook you for someone else. Lily Evans, get a grip. It's just a kiss from a man who's both handsome and mysterious. Is it that big of a deal?
The man spoke as he stepped closer, the gentle scent of ambergris wafting from him, making her heart race uncontrollably. As she sensed he was about to kiss her, Lily's heart felt as though it would leap out of her chest. Her face flushed hot, and by the time she regained her senses and covered her face with her hands, the man had already left with two others dressed in green and white. Thinking about the man's gentle yet enigmatic demeanor, coupled with her mistake in identifying him, Lily could only shake her head helplessly. Realizing she had been dazed over a fleeting kiss, she grew irritated and lightly patted her cheeks to compose herself. Looking at the silk jacket she had taken off Caleb Thorne, now draped over her arm, her face turned red once more. Not wanting to dwell on it, she quickly left the street. The sky was turning to dusk, and it would take only 2 or 3 hours to get back to the Parker family estate, provided she could find a carriage.
I still have some money in my purse, probably enough to hire a carriage. Mother must be terribly worried back home.
Thinking of her mother filled her with guilt. She turned around and walked briskly to another street, seeking someone to ask where she might rent a carriage.
Young lady, if you're looking for a carriage, head to Grace Prosper Carriage House. Walk straight to the end of the street ahead, turn right, and it's the second shop with a sign reading Grace Prosper.
Fortunate to meet a kind soul, Lily took the opportunity to stop by a fabric shop to buy a few rolls for her mother. She asked the shopkeeper for directions, and he enthusiastically guided her. Carrying the fabric rolls home for her mother to sew clothes, she didn't forget to pick out one for herself and even placed additional orders. The total came to 10 silver taels. Thinking about the trouble she had encountered while searching for Peter Parker, she held onto the remaining silver, just a few dozen taels, and quickly headed in the direction the shopkeeper had indicated.
Miss, may I ask, are you looking to buy or rent a carriage?
At the second shop, After turning right on the street, as Lily stepped into the large courtyard, she immediately noticed several carriages already prepared, alongside 2 horse stables. The person who greeted her was very polite and attentive.
I want to buy a carriage and, while I'm at it, a horse. May I ask how much it will cost in total?
Looking around, Lily considered how difficult it was to travel. Although she didn't carry much cash, she still had 2 blood jade stones in her pouch. She politely inquired about the price from the shop owner.
To be honest, we don't sell the horses separately here. But if the young lady truly wants to buy, I'll offer a fair price. Both the carriage and the horse together will only cost 60 taels of silver. What do you think?
The man observed Lily's attire, and guessed she was either a wealthy young lady or someone sent to handle errands. He pointed toward a carriage, speaking as he pulled out an abacus, clicking its beads before holding up 6 fingers.
60 taels? All right, shopkeeper, wait for me a moment. I'll quickly gather enough money to buy the carriage and horse.
Hearing the price, Lily thought of the small amount of silver she had on hand. If she didn't buy fabric, she might just have enough, but life for her and her mother afterward would become more difficult. Despite her hesitation, she responded and hurriedly stepped outside.
Honestly, if you don't have enough money, don't bother buying. Asking and then leaving like this. Young lady, if you want to buy, hurry up, otherwise I'll sell it to someone else.
Noticing Lily's reaction, the carriage seller observed her elegant clothing yet inability to produce 60 taels of silver. He let out a small sigh, lightly shook his head, and returned to his work. Lily returned to the pawn shop she had visited earlier, pawning a blood jade piece in exchange for 1,500 silver taels. She converted 500 taels into smaller silver coins and pieces, while keeping the remaining 1,000 taels as a banknote. Afterward, she carried enough silver to purchase a carriage and horse back to the shop she had visited earlier.
Miss, the carriage and horse you wanted are ready. Take care, take care. Truly someone with wealth. I refused at first, but you added another 20 taels.
After negotiating the price and seeing the shopkeeper hesitate to sell, Lily realized it was already late, and she didn't want to linger in the town any longer. Moreover, Peter Parker's top scholar's residence was in the vicinity, making her even more reluctant to stay. Despite her hesitation, she decided to pay an additional 20 taels to secure the carriage and horse. The shopkeeper, seeing her grit her teeth to make the purchase, quickly put on a respectful demeanor as he escorted her out. At the door, he watched her climb into the carriage, still beaming as if sending off a distinguished guest. Only when the carriage disappeared into the distance did he smirk, clutching the extra 20 taels in his hand with a face full of joy. With a sturdy horse and a carriage, Lily, though inexperienced in driving one, confidently mimicked what she had seen others do. To her surprise, a gentle pull on the reins was enough to guide the obedient horse in the direction she desired. And so, she left the town, heading toward the tranquil countryside where her mother lived, the Parker family village. The carriage rolled steadily along the narrow road lined with lush green trees providing shade. Lily's heart brimmed with joy at the thought of the substantial sum of money that would surely amaze the entire village. She imagined her mother, who had endured a lifetime of hardship, being moved to tears upon seeing the money. A radiant smile graced Lily's lips. The luxurious outfit she had worn earlier had been replaced with simpler attire, though it was still far better than what she used to wear in the past. However, just a few miles out of town, an unexpected noise startled the horse pulling the carriage. It neighed loudly, rearing up on its hind legs, causing the carriage to come to an abrupt halt.
Ah!
What's happening? Who are you? What do you want? Why are you blocking my way?
Before Lily could react, the frightened horse threw her off the carriage, sending her tumbling to the ground. Instinctively, She clung tightly to the bundle containing her silver and clothes, rolling painfully on the dirt. Struggling to get up while still clutching the bundle, she was horrified to see the panicked horse dragging the carriage into the nearby forest. Standing before her now were several men wielding long swords, their faces obscured by black cloths resembling bandits. Despite the fear gripping her heart, Lily forced herself to stay calm. Coldly and angrily she demanded,
"What exactly do you want?"
Chapter 26. Thus, Liam Sterling.
"You are Lily Evans, aren't you?"
A cold, threatening voice echoed from the burly man dressed in black, his face concealed, and his hand casually swinging a large blade. The curt tone made the atmosphere even more tense.
"Yes, I am. Who sent you to block my path?"
Lily raised her head high, her gaze proud, suppressing the pain from her fall. Her voice was icy, meeting the sharp eyes of her opponent directly.
"So you're not just anyone. You figured out there's someone behind this just from our encounter. But little lady, the underworld has its rules. No matter how beautiful you are, once we take the money, we do the job. Orders are orders. Capture her. As long as we don't scar her face, we can report back."
His words were like a command, causing his group of accomplices to immediately charge at Lily. Even a fool could understand that their knowing her name meant someone was pulling the strings. Lily frowned slightly, her gaze cold as she quickly devised a plan.
"Wait,"
she shouted, her eyes flashing with intelligence.
"How much is the other party paying you?" "I'll double it. But on one condition, you must tell me who's behind this."
Her words caused them to pause momentarily. However, the burly men soon resumed their charge. Lily, already on guard, swiftly kicked at the soft dirt beneath her feet, creating a cloud of dust to obscure their vision. Even so, she was quickly surrounded. Facing 3 armed men, she knew that resisting head-on would be akin to courting death. Understanding that their motive was purely monetary, Lily quickly regained her composure. Noticing their subtle signals preparing to act, she spoke coldly, her voice carrying a tone of negotiation.
"You want money? I have it. But hear me out first."
One of them, his expression showing a hint of hesitation, turned to ask,
"Boss?"
The leader of the group furrowed his brows slightly and replied,
"The other party is paying us 100 taels of silver. Moreover, in this town, that person holds considerable influence. Miss, even if you have a lot of money, I'm sorry, but we can't."
As he finished speaking, the other 2 still gritted their teeth and charged toward her. Lily stepped back, her eyes flashing with sharp determination.
"Stop. If I can't escape, fine, I won't run anymore. But you'd better think carefully. I'm someone who has caught Liam Sterling's attention. Surely you've heard of him. The owner of the Golden Barrel Tavern, the most luxurious establishment in town, and also the son of the Prime Minister of the Thorn Kingdom. Does the person who sent you have a higher status than him? If you harm me, can you bear the consequences?"
Her words were like a sharp blade piercing their minds. As they approached, Lily instinctively clutched the bag in her hands tightly, her gaze unwavering. She knew well that the item inside was extremely important and could not be lost. Upon hearing the name Liam Sterling, a few of them began to waver. They stopped in their tracks, their eyes showing hesitation. Lily stared at them, silently berating herself.
Why is my mouth so quick to speak?
Yet, despite her inner turmoil, she maintained a calm exterior, continuing to gauge their reactions.
"Master Sterling? Boss."
As soon as she finished speaking, the other 2 immediately paused, their expressions conflicted as they looked at the leader beside them.
"Master Sterling? This girl, don't make up stories. Master Sterling is someone of such high standing. Why would he pay attention to a country girl like you? Don't think wearing a decent outfit allows you to dream about someone like him. What are you standing around for? Grab her for me."
Seeing the reactions of the henchmen, Lily felt a glimmer of hope in her heart. She forced a wry smile and gently brushed aside the two large blades pointed at her neck before slowly stepping forward. Taking advantage of their momentary distraction, she swiftly turned and fled. Grabbing her bag, she took a deep breath and prepared to run when the leader's voice rang out, and several hands reached out to grab her.
You fools! Do you not even believe what I'm saying? Today, at the wedding of the governor's daughter, Master Sterling truly attended with me. Moreover, we personally presented gifts to Scholar Parker and Lady Campbell. Without me, Lily Evans, how could Peter Parker feel at ease marrying Lady Campbell? I'm telling you, let go. If you don't, I'll call for help. As they lunged toward her, Lily knew she couldn't escape. Despite her heart aching for the silver, she swung her bag forcefully at one of them. While he dodged, she turned and ran. But after only a few steps, she was caught again. Backing away while watching them, she saw several of them firmly grab her arms. In her helplessness, her instincts took over, and she opened her mouth wide. Help! Liam Sterling, if you don't come, Lily will truly be disfigured. MMM. Before she could finish her sentence, several people rushed forward and covered her mouth in panic. All of Lily's cries for help were now reduced to muffled, indistinct sounds. Little did she know, her sudden shout had reached the ears of someone inside a large carriage traveling through the forest. Inside, a handsome man with an elegant demeanor leaned casually by the window. His slender, beautiful hand gently picked up a grape from the plate. Hearing the call, he immediately paused. Ivy, go see who just called me, he said, placing the grape back down and addressing the maid in green, who was brewing tea beside him. Master, there's no one calling for you. I think you must have misheard. The maid frowned slightly, glancing outside with a hint of irritation, and replied in a low voice. No, I'm certain I didn't mishear. Someone just called me. Go now. If you won't go, I'll call Violet. The handsome man in white shook his head stubbornly, and then raised his voice, calling out to the maid in light pink with a delicate face, who stood blushing outside the curtain of the carriage. Fine, fine. I'll go. The maid in green, upon hearing his command, changed her expression instantly. Without hesitation, she swiftly stepped out of the carriage and headed in the direction her master had indicated. Violet, come sit here for a while. Even though it's late autumn, the weather is still a bit warm. Have some fruit. Your elder sister has always been competing with you since you were little. Perhaps it's time to find a good family for both of you to marry into, to avoid daily quarrels and jealousy over me. As the maid in green left, the man with slender hands gently lifted the curtain, his gaze following the maid in light pink standing outside. When he saw her bow and step into the carriage, he spoke. Master, please don't. Violet will no longer argue with her elder sister. I only beg that you don't marry us off. My sister and I wish to serve you for the rest of our lives. The maid in light pink, hearing his words, panicked and knelt before the man seated on the chair. Her trembling voice and tear-filled eyes pleaded with him. All right, if you don't wish to marry, then you won't. Go tell your sister that if she continues to act on her own and argue like this, I will definitely arrange marriages for both of you. For now, just sit here and wait. Ivy, is there anyone? The man looked at the girl in the pink dress, his long eyebrows slightly furrowing. At that moment, the girl in the green dress walked back in, her displeased gaze landing on the girl in pink. The gentleman casually spoke. Ivy, recount what you just saw. Yes, master. Ivy obediently replied, then summarized what she had witnessed. Wait here, all of you. I'll be back shortly. Hearing Ivy's words, a faintly mischievous expression appeared on Liam Sterling's handsome face. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure disappeared. Only a flash of white was seen leaving the carriage, and though the two girls attempted to follow, their master was already gone. You'd better let me go. If not, when Liam Sterling finds out you've laid hands on me, he will never forgive you. Liam, save me! If you don't, your Lily will truly have her face ruined."
Even with her mouth covered, Lily struggled desperately.